Welcome, welcome back. We are double dab down on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. 12:51 in the afternoon. August 28th, 2025. Bitcoin at approximately 113. High of 70 degrees outside. Beautiful Michigan. Here in the United States on Earth. Around the sun. That's what we're doing. We're continuing yesterday's run. And we are good to go. Alright, let's kick it up. Let's see what this guy has to say.
I care about what the price looks like in 2032. I care about what the price looks like in 2032. The biggest advantage, as far as I can tell, that Bitcoin has is that it's not fiat. You're not losing your time and energy. You don't need to be gaining time and energy at a 10x rate. You don't 100x every day. It doesn't need to be doubling every week. Just wait 2 cycles. Just don't do anything. Don't worry about it. Just sit back and just watch. If you're not doing those things and you have a job and you can provide for yourself, then just keep stacking and don't worry about that. I was truly primed to be a Bitcoiner, I guess, from the day I was born. And when the amount that you can get from mining drops under a whole number, I think that's going to have a significant mental impact on people. No matter what you do, mining-wise, you cannot get more than 1 anymore. You can't. That's it. Those days are gone.
Who you are, and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin, just to give the people that are listening some context to who you are.
Sure. How much context do you want? Do you just want a real quick snippet of where I live, generally what country I live in and that kind of thing? Or are you looking for back in 19, I was born, and how far back do you want me to go?
I think the second one is interesting. Start with something 19.
Okay, well, I was born in the 1980s. I won't be any more specific than that. I grew up between, I was born in Colorado, but I grew up between Southern Arizona and Southern California. My parents split up when I was in my early teens, and so that was partly why we moved around a fair bit. But I would say that my formative years, the years that I can remember in my childhood, were primarily in the outskirts of Tucson, Arizona. We lived about 20 miles outside of the city limits, and I had one single day of formal schooling my whole childhood up until high school. Once my parents had divorced, and then I was in Southern California. Then I started going to high school, which I eventually dropped out of. But that one day of schooling, I can't remember if it was something that my parents said we should try, or if we, the children, I'm one of multiple siblings. If we, I don't think it was us. I think it was my parents. We got to get these wild children some schooling. I mean, we were feral kids. We were just running around. We had no schooling. The schooling would be things like, let's bake some bread today, and then we're gonna go to the store, and if we're gonna double the recipe and we have half of a cup, how many cups of whatever, that kind of thing. So we learned practical things, helping my dad in the yard. And when I eventually did go to high school, nothing was difficult. I thought, I was terrified initially, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be so stupid and I'm not gonna know anything, because I've never done anything like this ever. I mean, I did some kind of book stuff, but not formal, here's the class and here's the curriculum and you got to take a test now. I didn't know. Most of my exposure to that had been a few movies and whatnot, and I didn't even have a TV until I was in my 12 or 13 was when we first got a TV. So I didn't even have that much exposure. I was truly primed to be a Bitcoiner, I guess, from the day I was born. And so what I did do all those years was play outside, tons and tons, play with Legos and read, tons and tons of reading as a kid. And it wasn't like I was reading super advanced encyclopedias or technical books or anything. It was fun books, The Hobbit and later on Harry Potter, that kind of thing, science fiction, fantasy. And then, fast forward a good chunk, 10, 20 years or something, I find out about Bitcoin because of the whole GameStop thing that happened. And my wife, I'm married, and I had felt for years that the current monetary system, although we didn't know dick all about it, I couldn't have told you the first thing about fiat money, or, I mean, I knew what stocks were. Generally, you own a piece of the company, kind of, that's the idea. Okay, cool. I'd heard investing is a good idea, but at this point, I was in my 30s, and I was thinking maybe I missed the train. Maybe, was there any point to even get a 401k? I'm kind of screwed, aren't I? And I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. And it was, you hear this a lot, that it's either the number go up aspect or need that drives people to inquire about Bitcoin. And I was naturally curious. And because of the whole GameStop thing happening, I was like, man, maybe I should pay attention to investing. Maybe I haven't missed the train. Maybe the trick is to find the next stock, because I was savvy enough to know that I'd missed the train on GameStop. If it was in the news at this point, then it's done. Maybe it'll go up a little bit more, but the huge gain of being in the single digits, climbing out whatever $4 when Roaring Kitty was talking about it, flying all the way up to 150. I clearly missed that one. I missed the 150x or whatever that is. I guess that's a 10, yeah, a 30x. So I missed that one. But maybe I could find another one. Maybe I've never thought that there are, I mean, yes, there are people that are geniuses out there, absolutely. But I have never thought that there are huge swaths of people working on Wall Street that are just so much smarter than me that I can't figure out what they know. Well, come to find out, after doing a whole bunch of looking into Wall Street investing, that the people that are at these hedge funds have massive advantages. So even if you are a super smart individual, you cannot beat the algorithms, the AI, the data banks, the connections. They just have such a leg up, and they have so much money to throw around that your $1,000 investment means nothing to them, because here comes $50 billion in an afternoon, and they just throw it over here and throw it over there because they're making cents on the dollar. It's a completely different game. Anyhow, started learning about Bitcoin because I've been listening to a fair number of podcasts, and it's honestly kind of just dumb luck that I happened to hear the one with, I don't know which one came first, but they were both, I think, within like a month of each other on Lex Friedman's podcast. He had Saifedean Amos and Michael Saylor. And it was Saifedean that really stood out to me of those two, because of just how adamant he was when he talked about things. Like you've heard him talk. He gets borderline pissed. Like, how can you not see this? And I was like, okay, this guy really cares about this stuff. I'll read his book. So I read his book, and yeah, here I am, interested in Bitcoin, having worked for Simply Bitcoin for a bit. Now I work for the Mining Disrupt channel, so you can see me over there doing a weekly news recap. And I've toned down in terms of my like evangelism of Bitcoin. I'm kind of at a point now where it's sort of like, hey, I'm more than happy to talk about it if you want to hear about it, but I don't go out like, you are grabbing people by the shoulders. No, you don't understand. Money is evaporating before your very eyes. You've got to put your time and energy into something better than that. They'll get there if they will or they won't.
I think it's a healthy attitude. I think it's, first of all, I think it takes time for people to actually understand Bitcoin. And then if you really want to throw them and force them into something, you most likely just push them away even further.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows anything about sales can probably tell you the same thing. You should be more an educator and not a salesperson, even if you're selling something. Interesting, because like you do the weekly thing, and we sometimes talk so many about news and so many things about like what's going on and what are like the new companies and all those things. And I kind of take a different approach. Like the podcast always comes out like at least a week later, sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks later. So I don't do news. I don't feel like it adds a whole lot of value to the overall mission. It adds a lot of value if people want to stay on top of Bitcoin and on a weekly thing. It's like, oh, like, what happened? It's just not my thing. But there's always interesting topics, interesting narratives going on in the Bitcoin ecosystem, what kind of reflects what's going on with the news. For example, the last few weeks, it seems like every second guest wants to talk about Bitcoin treasury companies. A year before that, it was ETFs. I think we even had ETFs in our first title. When I looked in the first 2 episodes that we did together, I think the first one had like ETFs in the title somehow. So I guess we talked about that also. And so there's always some kind of narrative or some topic that are the most present currently in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah.
And sometimes a personal topic can be overlapping or different to the current community most important topic. Is that for you the same currently, where like the most important topic in Bitcoin for you personally is a different one than the one that you kind of see people are kind of most interested in right now?
Yeah, I would say the things that people are interested in, I mean, the way that I know what people are interested in is already a little bit skewed. And I found this out here recently, and you'll get snippets of it every once in a while. Let me explain what I'm talking about. So I get what I know about Bitcoin almost entirely, almost exclusively from X. I say almost because sometimes I'll go to Google and I'll type in Bitcoin and I'll see some news, but usually the stuff that whatever crypto blog website 123 is talking about is something that I already saw on X a day or 2 or 3 ago. I mean, and if it's mainstream news, they might be a week behind the curve and they don't really know what they're talking about. They're just kind of regurgitating something. So X is by far, for what I use it for, I mean, it's the main reason that I paid for a check mark and all that, because I got so sick of the ads. I use it to find what I'm going to talk about. And I don't really talk about it in a, like, oh, here's what's happening, because I assume that most of the people that are watching something Bitcoin related are interested in Bitcoin stuff. And so they probably already know that the White House released this crypto report. So I'm not here to tell you, oh, the White House released a crypto report. And because I don't think anybody that I would tell that to would be like, wait, they did what? Oh, I never knew that. No, they probably already know. So what I try to do is say what I think about it. There was something that I picked up that people really liked when I worked at Simply Bitcoin. They liked me sharing my opinion on something, my take, because everybody, even from the guy that hasn't even heard about Bitcoin, is going to have an opinion. Like, you explain to him 5 minutes what you think of it, and he's like, well, here's what I think of that. And it's going to connect to something, and maybe he'll tell you a story about the time that he lived in Canada, whatever. People are interesting. They're buckets of all sorts of crazy stuff. And so I think, and I guess you got a snippet of my background there, that it's not a typical upbringing. A lot of people that I know did go to public school. They do have a more, I don't know, traditional life, kind of normal life, I guess, what you'd expect. So having somebody that grew up in the desert and played in the dirt more than he went to school, and because he went to school for one day, well, that's going to lead to some interesting opinions, I guess. And so, yeah, what people are looking for online and what I talk about are not necessarily the same thing. There's overlap, yeah. And what I meant when I said that there's a disconnect is, I saw this in a pretty big way here recently with the whole Sydney Sweeney, the American Eagle thing. She's wearing some jeans and people are like, oh, I don't know. So I got very little of that, but people, I guess, were upset because of they're saying something with eugenics, and because they're saying good genes, like the GENES, like the genes that make up your body, and it's like a, I don't know, like a white supremacist thing or something. And then I saw a tweet from some account that showed a picture of her. It was in Times Square. It said, look, they're American Eagle is doubling down. They put Sydney Sweeney in Times Square. America is healing. And I thought, how many people pumping gas right now or going to get their groceries are even aware that this is a thing at all? Like, and do any of them? Like, you have to be one of these perpetually online types that even is aware of this, let alone cares about it. There are millions of people active on X, and many of them just aren't paying attention to that kind of thing. They're doing whatever else. They're making art, sharing photographs. Like, oh, I know that Sydney Sweeney's a person, but I didn't even know anything about this American Eagle thing. So America's healing because of an ad in Times Square? I don't know about all that. It's engagement farming, and it is amusing how much of a disconnect there are between the people that are just kind of stuck in their little echo chambers and then everything else in the world where people are just going about their day and they don't care about that at all. So I don't think, this is kind of a long way to say, I don't think that there's much benefit in being another channel, another account, another person going, did you hear the White House released a crypto report? There's 10,000 channels, people doing that. Share something interesting about it. Find a single sentence and tell the world what you think about that and why that part is interesting. That's what I find amusing. Like, one of my favorite accounts is Matthew Pines. I don't really care about the UFO stuff that he shares about. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, okay, whatever. But he's got really interesting takes on Bitcoin, and I know that he works on the Bitcoin Policy Institute, and so I like that kind of stuff. And he'll point out footnotes on things like that. It's like, oh, pay attention to this. Like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go read 166-page documents. So I'm glad you're here to point out things like that to me. But yeah, I don't think focusing on the day-to-day news is beneficial for really anybody.
Yeah, that's very true. And it was so present on Twitter. And I think nobody in real life cared about the Sydney Sweeney thing. I mean, it's interesting because there's like two groups of people. There's like those, because American Eagle, I think, has some past, or was it another brand? I don't know, where they featured fatter models and said like, oh, like they have different kind of like beauty standards. And then like, like this. And previously to that, the models were always like how you imagine models to be. And then it's like they tried this woke thing of like, hey, like, okay, let's have some curvy models in there. They all figured out, okay, it doesn't sell. And then they went back to Sydney Sweeney kind of girls. And then they interpret that as it being healing of America. I don't think it's healing of America. I think it's just a company trying things out and trying, hey, do fat models maybe work better than skinny ones? Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, let's go back to Sydney Sweeney.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't even know how much of that is on American Eagle and how much of it is them outsourcing the marketing to some ad agency. And ad agency goes, well, the woke thing doesn't seem to be working as well as it was whatever years ago. So let's try this. And they're like, okay, yeah, whatever. You're the marketing agency. You're the ones that do the research. We're over here just making jeans and trying to find the cheapest sweatshop laborers we can. So you do whatever you do, and we'll throw it up in Times Square. The little kids are going to use their nimble fingers to stitch the pants, no matter who's wearing them, whether they're size 28 or size 5. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it's a good thing because they really, like, I don't know if people really imagine that, but if they're imagining someone at American Eagle sitting there, oh wow, like we have to push white supremacy, we have to push the American spirit. No, they just want to sell jeans. Like, they want to.
Let me tell you, if you want to put white supremacy, there's a lot less subtle ways to do it than trying to be sneaky. You just get Hitler, you put a bald eagle on his shoulder, an American flag, and he's looking like George Washington, but it's straight up Hitler. It's like, Hitler likes our pants. It's like, there's no subtlety there. Oh,
Hitler has great jeans.
Yeah. Hey,
don't clip that.
Yeah, yes. There's some people out there that are like, "Oh no, look, America's healing." wait, what? Thank you, Kanye.
An old video of Kanye West that's like 15 years old, where a comedy club had a game that said, "Did it say?" Was that they read out a sentence out loud and said, "Was that sentence either said by Kanye West or by Adolf Hitler?" I don't know if you saw that video, but it's really funny.
No, I didn't see that.
And it became pretty popular after his whole thing. But yeah, I think the original thing that I asked was like, what is kind of like your more, like, what are the topics that you currently see in the Bitcoin thing that kind of like touches you personally, that you see, oh, like that's an interesting topic that maybe people are not talking about, or maybe they are talking about it?
It's interesting. It right now feels very reminiscent of when I first got into Bitcoin, which was in 2002, when Bitcoin was back in it had dropped from the near 70 that it was at. I had seen it. I mean, I knew of Bitcoin then, like just on the periphery, like I'm aware that it's a thing, but I wasn't interested in purchasing it. I was still at that point, I was like, oh, Bitcoin, this coin, that coin, it's all just different versions of the same thing, basically. So if I can't buy a whole Bitcoin, what's even the point? I should just buy a whole Ethereum, right? I mean, it's come to find out they're drastically, yes. Do they both exist on computers, and are they lines of code? Yes, they have that. There are similarities. Let's be honest here, but the similarities are so kind of besides the point. It's like saying that, oh, Dell and I don't know, Donald Trump are both humans that live in the United States. Oh, okay, yeah, but they're drastically different people. One is the head of the country, and the other is definitely not. Spoiler, it's not me. I'm not the head of the country. And so, I lost my train of thought there. Dang it. I guess where I was going there is, Shoot, your question was what interests me. What interests me is how it feels like a bear market. That's where I was going. Thank you, brain. How it feels like we're in a bear market right now when we're not. Like the general sentiment that I see online is like a restrained, I was going to say restrained hope, but it's not hope. It's like restrained excitement. People aren't going like, it's a very different feeling right now than it was, say, near the beginning of the year when we had that run up to 111,000. We're like, oh my gosh, we're breaking all-time high. That's never done this before. And the memes and just the overall vibe that I was getting was very euphoric. Oh, look at this, Bitcoin to the moon. This is it. Here we go. $1 million, next stop. People losing their minds, posting that pump it up video. And then it kind of cooled down and kind of dinked around, went to 103. It just sort of, but it's more or less stayed over 100,000, except for like that 1 week where it dipped back into the 90s there for a little bit. And then here it goes, climbing up to 123, we're in a new all-time high. And oh, here's the euphoria again. And then it cools off, it drops down, and we hear this news about some new China ban or something, and China's doing something, drops back down to 113, still looking pretty good. And now I think this, as of this morning, it's back up to, at least in USD, back up over 115, 116 or something like that. Yeah, 116 and a half. And yet people, I mean, it's very much that meme where you see like Leonardo DiCaprio, it says 115 yesterday or whatever, and he's looking like Wolf of Wall Street, losing his mind, and then it says 115 today, and it's from The Revenant. He's like, oh, looking all haggard, like, oh, what have I been through? And yeah, it just reminds me of 3 years ago when people were like, oh my goodness, how did we survive this? And are you guys still, are you holding it together? Are we good? Let's try and make some funnies and make the best of it, because we've gone from 70 all the way down to 15, 16, under 20. It's been rough. I think it's really helpful, and this is something that I learned really early in Bitcoin, again and again and again, from people that had been in Bitcoin for a while, like multiple cycles, 8, 10 years, maybe in the very, very beginning. And the thing that I heard over and over and over and over again is just wait 2 cycles. Just don't do anything. Don't worry about it. Just sit back and just watch. And so when I see people getting up in arms and upset, or, oh, I don't know, my net worth, this or that, it's like, what does it matter if you're not selling? Who cares if it went all the way from $100,000 down to $5,000 if you're not doing anything with it? As long as you have income, and this isn't like you're not doing something with your Bitcoin that requires it to have a high price for you to make payments on your mortgage and put food on the table. I don't really know what that would be anyhow. Taking loans out on it or something, or using it as collateral, which is still kind of a market right now. If you're not doing those things and you have a job and you can provide for yourself, then just keep stacking and don't worry about that. That may be the most important lesson that I heard time and time again. So I don't really care what the price of Bitcoin is right now. I have a very specific date that I will start to care about it. And that date isn't for 7 years. I care about what the price looks like in 2032, when the halving, I think, is the most important halving ever. When the subsidy goes from 1 Bitcoin over Bitcoin to under Bitcoin to 0.78125 Bitcoin. I think that'll be the most impactful Bitcoin halving ever, because you hear people constantly talking about get to 1 Bitcoin. You've got to have 1 Bitcoin. People like these whole numbers. And when the amount that you can get from mining drops under a whole number, I think that's going to have a significant mental impact on people. No matter what you do, mining wise, you cannot get more than 1 anymore. You can't. That's it. Those days are gone. It's done. And I think that's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people, not to mention, God knows what happens 7 years from now with Bitcoin. We already have another halving between now and then. So things are going to get weird.
Yeah, and I want to point that out to people, because I hear and see that actually a lot, and you capture the sentiment really, really good. I hear it in comments. I hear that, oh, why does Bitcoin crash? Why is Bitcoin so bad performing? And then we look at the chart. We can go back the past 5 days, we are 2% up. Past months, like 8%. Past 6 months, 20%. Year to date, 25%. 1 year, 100%. In 1 year, we doubled. That's phenomenal. If we have in the next 10 years a CAGR, so like yearly growth of Bitcoin of 50%, that would be freaking awesome. 100% is double of that. That would be just like outrageously good. And yeah, 5 year, we almost 10x or around 10x the thing. So there is absolute no sign of a bear market. Yet people feel like in a bear market, and I'm like, where the heck? Where does it come from? It's weird.
Yeah, I think people forget. They get into Bitcoin for the money. They stay in for the revolution. That's a good meme. But I think people get greedy. That they forget that the biggest advantage, as far as I can tell, that Bitcoin has is that it's not fiat. You're not losing your time and energy. You don't need to be gaining time and energy at a 10x rate. You don't 100x every day. It doesn't need to be doubling every week. Like, that's not necessary. As long as you're not losing time and energy, and over, like you just showed, enough time. Yeah, if you look at it, zoom into the day or the week, depending on when you zoom in. Yeah, yes, maybe it went down. You're like, oh my goodness, I put my whole paycheck in and it was 115 and it dropped to $110,000. Oh my goodness, I should have waited. Just wait another year. But do you need that money right now? And if you did, then why didn't you use the cash to pay for the bill that you had to pay? Like, if you don't need it right now, then what is? I don't understand. What's the problem? Like, it's an investment. You sit on it. I think people see these other coins. I hope that it's less of a thing now. I know, like last year and the year before, it was altcoin season. All the people see these things and all the pump fund coins, and a coin getting made out of everything, and you can imagine this person, that person, this dog, cat, whatever, raindrops, puddles, and it goes up 100,000% or something over the course of a night because one token is a millionth of a penny, and so people buy $2 worth, and suddenly I'm a millionaire. It's like, yeah, but those are scams. That's the problem there. If you want to go and hang out and spend, who knows? I mean, I think I was listening to some podcast talking about what the people are doing behind those other coins. They're just hanging out in these discords and looking. It's just this whole other ecosystem trying to find the next one and get in the second it drops so that they can be there, and then hoping that some well-known person tweets about it so that all these other people get in. It just sounds exhausting. Like the mental effort to be it, just and hoping that you don't lose your money. Like the people that bought in to the Trump coin, and just like, do your own research. Don't just hope that somebody's name or the Floyd Mayweather this or the Trump coin, the Melania coin. Like, these are bad reasons to get into anything. Like really, you need to be looking at what you're getting into. This is what people talk about time and time again. This is what Roaring Kitty talked about when you looked at GameStop. Like you got to do your due diligence. And if you don't know why you're in Bitcoin, well, you might want to fix that, because if you don't know why you're in, then you won't know why you're getting out, except for, well, it went up and now I can go buy 3 pairs of sneakers. So that's good, right? I don't think so, but you do you, guy.
Is that and first of all, I feel like the altcoin season is gone, and we now have the Bitcoin treasury season.
Yeah.
And I actually looked through, Daniel Prince actually made me aware of that there's like almost every day now a new Bitcoin treasury company coming up. And I do feel there's a lot of value to what, for example, Strategy did and does. But I don't think there needs to be the 1,000s and 2,000s treasury companies. And I'll see some of the treasury companies. I just looked at one yesterday, and it basically does AI tokenization. So they're putting like AI agents on like blockchain, and it's just a complete shitcoin hole.
Yeah.
But they are now like, hey, we're not only AI and shitcoin hole, now let's add Bitcoin to the treasury company. Then we can also say we are a Bitcoin treasury company. So I feel like this treasury company thing that started really good, the strategy and what they're doing with financial, like, with giving the financial service to lock capital, to unlock that and putting into Bitcoin. At least that's what I feel like they're doing. And now those kind of companies use it as marketing and use it to get our capital on the public market. When I'm like, yeah, this feels like the same scam that altcoins do, just on the public market. It will be interesting how the SEC looks at all of that.
Yeah, I don't think that the world needs more Bitcoin treasury companies, really. I think what the world needs more of when it comes to companies and Bitcoin is companies that understand, just like it needs more people, individuals. You need more companies that put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, not because they're going to try to copy the Sailor play, but because they want to preserve their company. They go, hey, we've got a good thing over here. We're a mom and pop business, and we started making some widget that is popular for this industry. We're not a $1 trillion company. We're not the next Apple. We've never aimed to be. We're just doing our thing. Like there's a company here in Washington somewhere. So I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live in Washington, and there's a company. I'm not sure exactly where it's at, but when I learned about this, I was like, obviously that's a company. You know those little bread clips? They're just like, maybe, I don't know if you have these where you live, but it's just like a little piece of plastic with like a slit and a hole in it. It's like it's a tiny little bread clip. That's what it's called. It's a piece of stiff plastic. So when you twist the bag up of bread, it's a little thing that holds the twist in place. It's kind of like a twist tie, but it's just a single piece of plastic. That's all they make. They've been making them for like 50 years. That's all they do. They just make these things. And every bread bag that you see ever in the US has one of these on it. It's just how it's held closed so the air doesn't get to it. And if they're saving, I have no idea. I'm just mentioning this because they make a thing that lots and lots and lots of other companies use. And so it would make sense if they started putting some amount of their cash, if assuming they have some, into Bitcoin, because they go, hey, we see what's happening here. And I think I've said this and I've said it and I've said it again, and I'll say it another 100 times. Am I convinced that Bitcoin is the, like Max Kaiser and people say like, oh, the solution to all of humanity's ailments? You know what? I don't know. But I do know, and I am utterly convinced that fiat is a problem, and that people are going to keep on printing that, and politicians that are in control of the money printer will abuse that power, because that has happened throughout history all the time since ever. People are greedy. People want to buy things, and so they press the button and they get more money and they go and buy the things that they want. So I don't have any hesitation to say that will always happen. That will continue to happen all the time, forever. Assuming that governments don't get on a Bitcoin standard or something. But this might be controversial to say, but look at what happened in El Salvador. Those people championing Nayib Bukele, and now he's going to be in power for God knows how long. That's not how you do democracy. That's not how you do, you don't, no term limits. You can just be in power for however long. Look, you have to pass the reins off and go, I trust that the next person will fulfill the will of the people and will do things in a way that's good. But yeah, making sure that you just stay in power indefinitely is not the way to do that. That is not a good thing. You have to make yourself vulnerable and go, look, maybe the country will go in a different direction without me, but that's okay. Change is okay. Trying to hold on to the moments that pass is not good.
He has no term limits now? Like I haven't...
Something like that. Yeah, there's
interesting.
Well, it's not no term limits. I think it's some limit was lifted. Like I think it was 3-year cycles, and I think it's now 6, and there's no re-election limits or something. Basically, he can stay in power indefinitely now. Like there was some little goofy thing that they were doing before where a president couldn't be reelected, and so 6 months before re-election, he would pass the reins off to the vice president, knowing that it was just like some loophole, dumb nonsense. And so that's how he got reelected, I think once, maybe twice now. But due to people are like, oh, well, he didn't. I saw that. I know very, very little about this, but what I did see was something like, well, it wasn't Nayib Bukele that passed this. He didn't impose it. It was the Senate or their version of whatever it is that they have down there. It was like the politicians under him. It's like, yeah, but how did they get into power? Were they appointed by him? With like, I don't know. When I see an approval rate of like 95% or something, and I see swaths of the army patrolling the streets, like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's safer. You don't have the gangs, and that's good. And the murder rate is down. That's good. Yes, these are good things, but I don't know, at what cost? I saw a post recently from somebody saying that he went down there thinking that it was great and paying attention to all these people talking about how wonderful it was, and it's the Bitcoin promised land, and went down there. It's like, no, that's not true. It's a bunch of fluff. It's not. It's fiat. It's just they're just took advantage of this thing, this Bitcoin thing. It's all for show. I don't know. I haven't been there, so I don't know. I'm getting all this from the internet, and the internet does not know what it's talking about half the time. I saw a post in regards to something that happened very close to me, like not like in a personal sense, in a physical sense. They showed a picture of a place that I know very well, and they're like, look, nobody's here. There's no tour. There's nothing's happening here. And I drove by that exact place like within 2 days, and that was not the case at all, not even a little bit. And I was like, I don't know when they took that picture. Could have been months ago. Could have been this, but it's not even true. Like I was just there. I drive by it on my way to work. What are you talking about? It's like, I don't know what to believe online anymore.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilant represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what Bitbox did. Bitbox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a Bitbox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey. Even it's called Proceed. You can everywhere. So you get the .I. He extended the presidential terms from 5 to 6 years, and he eliminated runoff elections, which means he can be reelected forever, and he can basically now be just reelected since the end of time. And if you have 97% of approval rate, however you measure that, I don't have no clue how he does that. He's basically in power forever, and that's not the Bitcoin way. Like that's definitely not something that you want to see in a Bitcoin country. I mean, there's Bitcoiners saying like, oh, what will happen if there's someone else than Bukele coming in? And I'm always saying, then we see if it's if it outlives him, and if it actually has, because the whole El Salvador thing just started. Like I did not expect El Salvador to turn on the switch 2021 and be the Bitcoin country. This needs decades of work, and like it needs time. I was there, and I was like, I like the country, I like the people, really friendly people. I felt safe everywhere. But at the same time, outside of the Bitcoin conference venues, I could never pay with Bitcoin. Like not a single thing. I purposely did not went to the Bitcoin venue, hotels, recommended things, Bitcoin, Airbnb thing. No, I just went on Airbnb and just booked one Airbnb that I like outside of Bitcoin context. There, obviously, with Airbnb, I cannot pay with Bitcoin, but that's an Airbnb thing, not an El Salvador thing. Then I just went outside and like, hey, I want to have breakfast. Oh, there's some stand there. Oh, can I pay with Bitcoin here? No. What is Bitcoin? Like, okay, yeah, like it's not everyone accepts it, I guess. But then I was like, okay, let's go to a little bit of a more like a bigger chain, like a bigger thing that looks a little bit more professional. This was just some street vendor.
Right, okay.
Can I pay with Bitcoin here? No, you can pay with Apple Card. You can pay with everything that you can pay everywhere, with a credit card, Apple Pay, all those things. But no, not Bitcoin, sorry. I went to the mountain to an, basically like it's a tourist attraction in San Salvador. I was like, yeah, that's definitely like, it's a tourist attraction. Like the government says you have to accept Bitcoin, every vendor. A tourist attraction in the main city of El Salvador, they have to use Bitcoin, right? Like, no. And I was like, I can only get in with cash, like not even credit card. And I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. Just go in. Like, you don't have to pay. And I was like, oh, can I donate Bitcoin? Like, you let me in for free. Can I like show you how you open a Bitcoin wallet and just give you it was $2. Like, it was not a lot. Yeah. Can I just give you the $2 in Bitcoin? She's like, no. So the Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador, I was in November, so it's almost a year now out, was not at all mainstream there, not even close. But then I hear things like that, like presidents that extend their terms and lift restrictions how often they can run. That's usually not the presidents I want. And I have no clue about his political stance. Like I have no clue. Like I'm not in El Salvador. I don't listen to the news like on a daily basis, not at all. So I don't want to judge him. But if I just hear that isolated, just not like it's a small yellow flag in my opinion.
Yeah. I saw somebody tweeting about that when the news broke, and somebody, and I think he was retweeting something like, I told you this some time ago, and people were like, how'd you know? He's like, you just look at the history of Latin America, and it's just dictator after dictator, and basically every one of the countries down there. There's exceptions, yeah, but you just look at history, and that's all you have to do with fiat too. It's like, when has a government ever gotten its act together and gone, hey, all right, let's be fiscally responsible? I don't know. Has it? Maybe, but the exception proves the rule that is not how it works. I mean, the amount that America is in debt is it'll be $40 trillion before the next presidential election. So whatever that means, it's just this number that keeps on going up.
Was that the tweet that you mentioned right before we started recording, or was there something else you wanted to show me?
Oh no, it was something else, totally different. Yeah, this tweet is from Bajali. I don't know how to share my screen. How do I do that?
There's a share button. If it's not working, you can just send it to me and I share it.
There we go. That. Okay, so this one from Bajali, it says 0% AI is slow, but 100% AI is slop. So the optimal amount of AI is actually between 0 and 100%. The exact figure varies by situation, but just the idea that 0 and 100% are both suboptimal is useful. It's the Laffer curve. I don't know what that is, but for AI. Okay. So the reason this stood out to me is I think I hinted at this thing that I was working on last time we talked. I don't know. I think it was really brief. I said that I was working on some project, but I wasn't going to say more at the time. Maybe I told you off air. I'm happy to talk about it now. And what that thing is I've looked, and I don't think anybody's done this. I'm writing a fiction book about Bitcoin for Bitcoiners. There have been multiple books. There was one called The Atlas Maneuver. Natalie Brunell interviewed the author of that. And it's a thriller. It's one of a series. He's got this character, I forget what Steve Barry, I think is the author's name. And he's got this character called Cotton Malone. Very much like Jack Reacher, lone wolf kind of guy. Goes on solving different things. It's kind of thriller, Jason Bourne type of thing. And that book, I listened to most of it, is very much full. The Bitcoin aspect could have been anything, really. It starts out talking about how in World War II, the Japanese hid all this gold on these islands, and then as time went on, they realized that a better investment, or that they could move across borders at the speed of lightning, would be Bitcoin. And it reveals that the creator of Bitcoin is this woman, and she's like some super smart person, and she's got the secrets of the Atlas Maneuver. And okay, whatever, it's fine. But there is paragraphs at various points that'll explain what the blockchain is and tell you what mining is, just kind of briefly. It's like all these computers. So it's very much a book for people that don't know what Bitcoin is. There's another one by an author, CJ something another. Again, so the character, he's a Wyoming sheriff, park ranger, something another, and he's out there investigating some missing person or something another, and he comes across a facility where these people are clandestinely mining Bitcoin out on a national park, and he's got to solve some mystery here. But it's another MacGuffin where it could have been anything. It could have been oil. It could have been a underground poker ring or something. It's just a thing because, hey, Bitcoin is a thing I can slap on the back of the cover, and people are like, oh, well, that's a thing that exists. Let me read this story about Bitcoin. It's not really about Bitcoin. This novel that I'm writing is for Bitcoiners. So I don't spend any time explaining what the blockchain is or what mining is. If you don't know, then that's on you. If you want to figure it out, then go figure it out. But it's specifically for Bitcoiners. And what does this have to do with AI? Well, I'd written a book completely unrelated to Bitcoin, a little fantasy type thing, 2 years ago, and I thought this thing's pretty decent. I think I've got something here. So I sent it off to an editor to do what's called a manuscript evaluation. The editor will go through, look at it, and say if it's ready or not for publishing. Here's some things that need fixing. Here's what you could tweak. Here's strengths and weaknesses. And there's a lot of weaknesses, way more than strengths. It was not ready for publishing, not even close. And the strengths are things that I'd heard before. I write good dialogue. People like the dialogue. It flows naturally. It sounds like dialogue. But the number one problem that I had was that there wasn't really a story. It was just kind of a series of things happening, and the characters going here, doing this and that. And it just wasn't really much structure or plot. It was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? And because I had paid for this, and because it was coming from a professional editor, I kind of had to listen to it. I couldn't just go like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a genius, and you just don't understand my creative process. I had to, well, I paid for this. So yeah, and I'm intelligent enough to know and knew my story well enough, or what wasn't really a story, to go, yeah, you got some good points here. Well, this connects to AI, because after I'd written my Bitcoin story, once again, in up my own butt, I thought, I've got something here. This is good. Bitcoin will love this. And I thought, well, let me try something here. Let me give this to Grok and see what Grok thinks. Let me see. And so I told it, I said, give me a full, detailed manuscript evaluation, just like I paid that editor for, and tell me what you think. Well, Grok gave me much of the same feedback that I had gotten from that editor for this story. You don't really have much of a plot here. There's a lot of problems here. It just kind of wanders around. Things are happening. The character doesn't have clear motivations. Why is this happening? Question. Like, same thing again. And I realized I don't really know how to tell a story all that well. I want to, and I've tried, but I have written in what Brandon Sanderson, the author of Mistborn and a lot of other things, calls a discovery writer, which is you get an idea and you sit down and you start typing. Whoa, a guy goes here and like, okay, whoa, hold on. Do you have a plot? What's a what? No, and then this happened, that happens. Okay, well, you're trying to find the story by just pounding words out onto a page, and you're not really going to get there. Maybe you will, just by dumb, stupid luck. But that's like being a sculptor and having a giant piece of marble in front of you and like, I'm just going to start smacking it and maybe I'll discover what I want to make. It's like, whoa, wouldn't it be a lot better to go, I want to carve a swan out of this, or a toadstool with a gnome on, whatever the thing is that you want to create. It's a lot better to have a clear idea of where you're going. I mean, this is true of so many different things. Maybe not a conversation. Maybe with conversation, you just go, well, let's see where this goes. But even there, it might be a good idea to have some points that you want to hit. And so over the past year-ish, I've been trying to figure out why my storytelling is not as good as it could be and how to fix that. And after a fair bit of work, I am now working on a new version of that Bitcoin story and hope to have it done by the end of the year. And maybe we can talk again about it. And what I plan to do is send the first 25% of it, because I narrate stuff as well, primarily Warhammer 40K stories. But I've been trying to get to a point where I can narrate really well, like on a professional level, my own stories, because I want to write and narrate my own stuff. And so what I plan to do is, once I have most of it, if not all of it done, is send you and plenty of other people the first 25% and go, what do you think? Would you want, given that you've heard the first quarter of this, do you want to hear more? Or you're like, didn't really grab me. What do you think of this? And yeah, maybe we can talk again and you can let me know what you think of it and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I would love that. Just a small thing. The Laffer curve was actually a point of discussion already on the podcast. So I just want to, for a few people that might don't know what this means. It's basically comes, so I know it from the tax world, and there's this relationship between the tax revenue and the tax rate. Obviously, if you have 0% tax rate, you don't get any tax revenue. If you have 100% tax rate, you also don't get any revenue because nobody will pay you. And there's in the Laffer curve this perfect point of how much tax rate can you increase to have the maximum tax revenue, in a sense where if you raise the tax rate above that Laffer curve point, you actually decrease revenue of your country, of your tax revenue, because people are either cheating or just moving out to a different country. And the same with AI, of like, if you just like use AI too much, or it's like you lose the human touch on things, or you kind of just like am sloppy with it, there's probably a point, and that's kind of what he's suggesting, that after that point, it doesn't really make sense to use more AI. You have to get human touch involved in that. So I don't know if that same thing that with tax revenue is kind of the same thing also with AI, but just so people understand what the Laffer curve is. And I love that you're writing. Like I went myself through the journey of trying to write a book, and I learned very quickly that I'm super bad in it. Like super bad, but I'm just doing it anyways. I probably never publish anything, but I'm now just trying to get in the habit of writing more, because it helps me to find my own thoughts better, to think better, and just writing things down makes it easier for me to explain my thoughts. I don't do fiction, like no novels or anything like that. So like that would be a whole nother. I think writing about a novel or fiction is probably like 10x or 100x harder than just writing about what Bitcoin is and why it's important, because there you can go off something. And if you're having a fiction, you're like, everything happens in your head. Like you have to make things up, and like I'm super bad in this. But yeah, like this was just I just wanted to throw that Laffer curve thing in there.
Yeah, real quick on that, I kind of didn't mention this, but I've been using AI to help me structure the story. And what I realize is that AI it's not very good at that. It's good at compiling things and kind of helping you sort and kind of organize your thoughts, but it is not good at coming up and telling you. It's not at all even like talking to somebody that's just kind of an idiot across the table and like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think these characters should do? It only regurgitates the things that you've given it. So if I say, hey, I need some more motivations for these characters, it'll just tell me, well, what you need to find is more motivation for the It's like, you're not giving me anything new. And so AI is good for certain things, but it's not good for other things. And so there's currently, I imagine this will change as time goes on, but currently there's still very much a need for, kind of as you pointed to there, the human element to go, okay, thank you for putting this stuff in a more organized form here, but you clearly don't know what makes a good story. You're just pulling from Reddit posts and Quora question answers and doing your best to put something together here. But I'm going to have to go into my own brain and my experience of what I've read and seen on movies to kind of figure out why this isn't working. You're not really helping me right now.
I get that. It's sometimes like, I think people that don't use AI, like they will be in a very bad, like they will miss out on a lot of opportunity and productiveness that they have in themselves. But you also should not get in that thing where you let something be done 100% by AI, but then miss out on the quality of that, whatever you're producing. And so you always need that like last touch, or like that human intuition to it. Maybe AI gets so good that you don't need that. Like maybe AI gets so good that Laffer curve like is at 100%, and if you use more AI, it's actually getting better. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I just think use it wisely and learn how to grasp it. And I think more people should use it, not less. So I think like most people are not aware of it. The same with Bitcoin. I think more people should actually go ahead and use Bitcoin and use AI and use technology. I think most people are just like completely unaware of what they can do with those technologies, and yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah, it's helpful for what it's helpful, but I was thinking like, here's an area where I don't think AI would help you at all, maybe ever. If you're a comedian, how is it going to tell you what joke is good and why it's good for this audience, but not for that audience? How is it going to be able to read a room on the night and go, yeah, that joke will work tonight, but last night it wasn't going to work? Because it's like, no, that's really only something that a comedian can do. Maybe in the distant future, you have some AR glasses and it can tell you, yes, pull out joke version of the dog and the trash can joke, version 26, and that one will work tonight, given what I'm determining from reading through your glasses and mapping all the people's faces and telling you to do that joke. Maybe. I'm not sure that I really want to live in that world. That sounds very dystopian, but...
And comedians, they, from what I understand, they're doing a lot of testing. Like they're doing a lot of material and testing it with smaller crowds. And then the jokes and the stories that always work with a lot of crowds, then those get condensed into like one program that then is on Netflix. And you watch a Netflix program like 1 hour and you're like, shit, how is he so good? Yeah, right. Because he went through like hundreds of hours of testing materials in smaller pubs and smaller comedy clubs, and he picked out the best things and put it in the right order, and you just like laugh so good. So like not even comedians can do that. Like they just go through testing phases.
Yeah.
So AI will do a horrible job at that without testing.
Yeah, if you go to AI and be like, give me a really good joke that's going to kill tomorrow in Cincinnati, it'll just be like, knock knock, who's the goose? Like, what?
Let's do that live. Give me a great Bitcoin joke.
Oh boy.
Let's see. Do you think there's something good? Oh gosh.
What did you use ChatGPT? I asked Grok here.
Okay, I just used. Let's see which one gets a better joke, ChatGPT or Grok. The joke from ChatGPT: why don't Bitcoiners tell good jokes? Because the punchline is always hard to explain and takes 10 minutes to confirm.
Okay, I think Grok. I don't know. This is Grok's joke. I said, give me a great Bitcoin joke, and it just said, why did the Bitcoin investor go to therapy? Because he had too many ups and downs.
That's way better. Like Grok has definitely a better one than ChatGPT. Yeah, but comedy is something. Like it's hard to, like, sometimes the same joke in a different situation is just not funny. You know, it's so much about situation and where and how you tell it. Like even how you tell it makes a whole different thing. So,
and it's not only that, but the framing. Like you could have a joke that works terribly on its own, but given the joke that you said before, leading into that one, kind of setting it up for a larger joke, like there's a meta thing, like it's a whole thing that I've listened to a lot of comedy podcasts, so I've heard people talk about this a little bit, but it's a whole realm that I don't know enough about, but I know enough to tell you that Grok isn't going to be the next great comedian tomorrow.
But I think a comedian can use Grok to make his jokes, like to get more ideas and to make his jokes maybe better. But he has, the comedian has to be super involved. He cannot just say, "Hey, give me 10 jokes." No, you use AI as a tool, like a computer or Google or fire or knife, to make your life easier and to make
I think
the
fire knife is a good way to put it. It's like a refinement thing. You go, hey, I'm working on this idea. It can help you kind of sort things out, kind of like I was saying, organize. So if you know that you've got all these components, you're like, what would make sense in ordering it? And it can just take your text and be like, let's order it in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And you're like, oh, that number 2, that I think there's something there. And then you've got to do this refinement. There's got to be discernment on your end. It is not an end-all be-all oracle that you just go, like you said, hey, Grok or ChatGPT, give me funny. And it's just like, here you go. Like, oh, there we go. Netflix special. Here I come. It's like, no, it's not happening.
That's very true, yeah. Do you think AI has any implications on Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. I think, I am, well, I don't know. I guess there's, it's more of a hope. I'm hoping that it will allow people to, I'm hoping it will lead to more freedom, and that we do have a world in the not so distant future where tasks like lawyering and accounting, all these kind of soul-sucking jobs. I mean, maybe some people enjoy those, but I don't know that a lot of people really enjoy that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that if AI can do it, and the people that don't really enjoy that and would rather spend their time writing or drawing or sculpting or whatever can go, hey, I can be, instead of spending 40 hours in the office looking over legal contracts, I can just have my AI do it, and I can just double check the work. And so I can do 40 hours of work inside of a day, and I get maybe even more because my AI is sorting through it all and doing the bulk of the work, and I'm just double checking and making sure and kind of doing the final signing on it. And then I can spend the rest of my time doing the thing that I actually care about, like spending time with my family or working on these other creative things. So I'm hoping more of that kind of thing happens. Do I see a world where AI is roaming around and parking cars for us and being valets because there's Optimus robots in every household and every grocery store? Sure, I can imagine that. I don't think it's right around the corner. I don't have the timeline that Elon and certain other people do. Like, there's some people that I've talked to like, oh yeah, we're going to see that inside of 10 years. Like, maybe. I don't think so. And then they're asking for tips in Bitcoin and stuff. Yeah, maybe. I certainly think that there's a strong possibility of me seeing that inside my lifetime, assuming I live to 70, 80, 90. Yeah, sure. I mean, man, I'll tell you what, looking at a magazine, I got some magazines at an estate sale here recently, just to kind of like a snapshot in time. It hits you different when you see ads from the 70s and 80s and the prices on those things in a way that's different than just seeing a tweet where somebody shows you a picture of a thing, because you're holding a physical thing in your hand. You're like, wow, here it is, an ad for a car in the mid 70s that is $2,500. Good luck finding a car that's brand new for $2,500 today. I mean, the same comparable car is probably more than 10 times that. So do I think the technology will continue to improve and improve people's lives and increase productivity? I hope so. It seems to have. I just hope that the amount of time that it allows people to do the things that they actually care about, which usually isn't filing paper or double checking data and whatnot. I hope that we see more of that. But I don't know. You hear some of these things, and people are like, oh, AI is going to take over the world by the end of this year, and this year was supposed to be the year of the AI agents and every customer service. There no more waiting on calls for somebody to get there and talking to somebody from India that barely speaks the language. And none of that's changed. It's still the same. So I don't know. It seems like the promised world that's always a year away is more like 10 away. But yet other things happen. Man, life's weird. I don't know. I don't know.
I use AI now as my private tax consultant because my company structures get a little bit more difficult now. I have equity in Bitcoin companies and all that kind of shit, and so my small podcast thing is no longer like it was just like very rudimentary, and I was like, yeah, like that shit. We have to improve things, and I was like, okay, how the heck should I do that? And I didn't want to pay like tax consultant like 50, 100, or $200 an hour to explain me what to do. So what I did is like, hey, ChatGPT, like how the heck should I structure that and do that, and where should I go, and how does this working, and what are the implications of that, and all those things. And after like, I don't know, 2-3 hours working with ChatGPT together, I figured out a plan. And I was like, okay, let's go to the tax consultant that I have and ask him, oh, what do you think? And I was like, he just told me exactly what ChatGPT told me for free. Literally, like it was like almost the same thing. And nowadays, and Saylor actually talked about that in Vegas when he was on stage. Nowadays, I ask AI first, create a plan, and then give it to the tax consultant to just do the plan. Because I want to have his verification on that, so I don't get in trouble with the authorities. Like I don't want to. Oh, ChatGPT told me. So I want to have some proof of like the tax guy of it. Saylor also talked about that in Vegas, where he said everything that I do before I give it to my lawyers, I do the plan, and then I just go to my lawyers and say, do that plan. It's no longer sitting in meetings for weeks and on ends and figuring out what the plan is. No, I figure out the plan with AI and then just put it to the people that execute it. And then like, oh, how long till the execution can also be managed by AI? Like, I don't know. Like that is a very hard thing to predict. But we already have assistants that are super intelligent, and then you can use to sort things and give you information and get through things like that. Like that's a super easy task for like tax things. Like I don't want to deal with that. Like I'm very much like anti. Like I don't want to structure things, but I know there's an advantage of structuring it the nice way. I've learned about value-added tax, and because I learned about that, I got like 20% more on certain invoices, and nobody really had to pay more. Just that I got 20% more because there's like a checkbox you have to fill. And I'm like, oh, that's real value I can get if I know those things. But if I just ask AI, like they will tell me, and then I have a tax consultant that just like approves things and is the execution of that.
Yeah, that makes me think that once people start to appreciate the value of I was about to say Bitcoin, but of AI, I think that it has a very real potential of being the world's best translator. And I don't mean in the sense of, oh, you speak Chinese, I speak English, here, let's speak to each other through this AI. Yeah, that's an obvious implication of what AI can do. I mean talking between somebody that doesn't speak the language of this various, for example, if a homeowner knows that he wants an addition to his house, but he does not know the lingo of the architect or the general contractor, he's gonna be like, so he's gonna spend who knows how much money on all of those initial meetings of like, okay, what's it gonna look like? Well, we could do this, and we've got this, and let's get out the book and look at all these examples of what we've done in the past. Like, okay, well, I don't really like any of those. I was really hoping and you're gonna have who knows how much money spent on just all of these consultation meetings and trying to figure out what it is you want to do in the first place. You could do all of that with AI. Maybe not right now. I don't know if one exists, but if not now, probably pretty soon. You get out your phone, you take some pictures, you get some video, and then it can just, you put on some augmented reality, like what if it looks like this? And it can map a whole thing, and we would need this, and given this the area and the weather and the da-da-da-da-da, you'd want to use these materials and this kind of paint and just give the whole thing. And then you go to a general contractor and you go, hey, can you do this? And the general contractor's like, this is a complete plan, ready to go. All I have to do is bring my guys and the materials that are laid out per itemized thing, and we just do it. And we saved ourselves a week of trying to just get on the same page with the dumb homeowner that has a lot of money but doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to building things. Here it is, plan, boom, and I make it happen. So I think that kind of thing could be a massive, massive boon, because I work in a field where people, a lot of what I do is trying to figure out what in the hell the person is talking about. Like what is, I don't even know what it is that you want. I have a super vague idea, but we're speaking two different languages. So let's just try to dumb this down. And so if that person were to come with me with AI, I'm like, hey, does this make sense to you? And I look at it like, that makes perfect sense to me. Yes, the AI deciphered your gobbledygook and figured out what it is that you want. Now we can actually get somewhere. I think there's a lot of opportunity for AI to help streamline and translate gobbledygook into legible language.
I 100% agree. I have one question that I asked each and every one of my returning guests, and you are actually the third time already in the podcast. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Well, that I suck at storytelling, and there's a lot of room to improve there. I suck. maybe not suck, but definitely a lot of room to improve.
I wouldn't say suck, because storytelling is also the ability to speak on this podcast as a guest to a certain extent. And I see the metrics, and people really like listening to you. So, so you definitely don't suck.
Well, good. I'm hoping that I don't know how I'm going to try and go about selling this book or doing what I want to do, because my goal with storytelling and writing and now narration has been, number one, above all, to just to be able to pay my bills. I'm not trying to dethrone J.K. Rowling or Stephen King or anything like that. I'm not trying to be the next. I've got every movie coming. Like I just want to be able to make like half my income. Even it's not even like all of my income. That's, I think, a good starting spot. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe this is a good start with this Bitcoin book. We'll see. Like I said, it's directed at a very specific audience. So if you don't know about Bitcoin, you're gonna have to do some research. But if you do know about Bitcoin, then this is all gonna be old news to you, and you won't feel like I'm sitting here and like, I want to explain the blockchain to you. Like, oh god, just get on with the story, guy.
I like that, and I'm excited for it to being out. And once it's there, maybe we can have you on a fourth time. I'm really looking forward to it. We have, as you know, an routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. Mm-hmm. The previous guest asked you the question: How have your social alignments changed? Gosh, my English. After you became a Bitcoiner, basically, how has your social circle, social ecosystem around you changed since you've become a Bitcoiner, if at all?
No, I wouldn't say it had. Like, I don't have a whole bunch of Bitcoin friends or something like that. I've definitely been introduced to people like yourself and the Simply crew and the Mining Disrupt crew and things like that. The things that I guess are a little bit obvious. I see more people in the world that question things, and I'd say that is one similarity with most Bitcoiners. Not all, because nowadays you've got people that they're just in it for the money. But I'd say early day Bitcoiners, who many of them are still in, they question the status quo. I'm like, is that really how it should be? You're telling me that I should put my money into a 401k and just be a diversified stock portfolio and bonds and this and that, and that's the best way to maintain my time and energy? I don't know about that. So seeing people that question things is good, and having more people like that around, even if it's at an arm's length through X, then that's still more than none, and that's good.
Critical thinking is something that like really improves with Bitcoin. Like not improve, maybe it starts a process of you starting to critical think. It was not maybe necessary with me, but I saw it with some other people, where once one thing that you really believed in, like the money, breaks, and you think like, oh, okay, it's not like I learned it in school. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, is that also not true? And like it can foster critical thinking to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Really cool. Thank you so much, Del, for being on. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and maybe see about your book?
Yeah, you can find me on X. It's my first and last name, Delio Para. Just that, and nothing fancy, no special characters, anything. You can find me on YouTube weekly doing a show, some shorts on the Mining Disrupt channel. And then if you are interested in Warhammer 40k stories, you can find me on the channel Para9. It's my last name with the number like 9, so Peranine. And I have been releasing a Warhammer story every Tuesday, and I just sit there and I narrate it. And if you want to go there and listen to that and give me feedback on my narration, please do. And yeah, I guess those would be the main spots.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Del, for being on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.
All right. Let's get the next one going. Oh no. All right, here we go.
Massive speculation surrounding why Bo Hines left the White House recently. But now that he's out of the White House, it looks as though he's able to finally say what he thinks. And it sounds like we finally have confirmation when America is going to buy Bitcoin. So pay close attention to what he says in this clip.
Like the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve has been signed into law through executive order. There's some infrastructure that's required in order to get things set up properly. And so I'm still very confident that the U.S. government is going to be keenly interested on moving expeditiously on budget neutral ways to accumulate. So I'd tell people just to, keep their eyes and ears open for that news that eventually I'm sure will come. But Patrick's working on that, as I can imagine. The last time that we've been truly able to speak on digital asset issues was the day before I left, but I'm very confident in his abilities to perform and deliver for the industry. And look, the president obviously has been a steadfast leader in the space. He's made it vehemently clear that this is a major priority for him, and that includes the SBR. And then we also have the Digital Assets National Stockpile as well, which I think was really just our attempt to give credence to the other ecosystems and what's being built over there. We want to welcome innovation here in the US, and we want to make sure those other ecosystems continue to thrive and grow. But we'll see. I certainly you can hang around and I'd love to be a part of all of it. But I felt as if it's always good to bring a new set of eyeballs in every once in a while, have a fresh, clean look. I'd been in the weeds of this for over 8 months, and I'm super proud of everything we've accomplished and super thankful for the president and David for their support and their push through all of it. But we have market structure on the horizon now, so I'll be watching diligently, just like many of you, to see how this unfolds. But I'm confident they'll be able to bring that home as well. And you'll have 2 monumental pieces of crypto legislation signed into law this year, firmly cementing the United States as place as the crypto capital of the world.
Interesting, Nico.
What
Interesting
an
stuff.
answer. What an answer, dude.
So it
Bo,
does seem now
I'm
that
a
he's at
big
Tether.
fan of Bo. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan
as we were
of Bo.
saying, great name. Real Chad there. You know, young, seems to be on the ball. Love to see it. But no, let's just like talk about the general conversation before we kind of break down what the Bitcoin Act is.
Fountain,
Nico.
fountain, give me a
On my
fountain.
first listen, I was like, I don't know. It is. You could say this is more wishy-washy. You know,
No.
it could be this take like he really doesn't know. But then he finishes the clip very strong. He's like, this is coming 2025, and if that happens, I don't know. I think it's on to the races here. That would fundamentally be a game changer. Remember the strategy that Bo Hines has been kind of laying out for us for a long time. He's like, first, we needed kind of some market regulatory clarity. We got that. They delivered on that. And now I think this is the 1-2 punch here, where they needed the regulatory clarity, as they've been saying for a while, the clear rules of the road. And then the final kind of big kahuna here, the final big knockout punch would be if they pass this Bitcoin Act. So I do want to talk about just a general statement here, Nico, and then we'll kind of break down again, remind everyone, a refresher of what the Bitcoin Act will actually do.
Yeah, so I mean, look, so again, Bo Hines was driving, he was really put in charge of the so-called crypto initiative by the White House. And the wording there is very interesting, right? The wording is, you know, the United States has the intention of acquiring Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. Then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went on CNBC. No, I think it was actually Fox Business. And he was being interviewed and he basically saying, oh, no, we actually don't have any intention of buying any more Bitcoin. And then he got so much backlash that he went on X and he kind of backtracked and he said, actually, we do have the intention of acquiring Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. And I think that's an indication of how much influence the Bitcoin donor class has in DC these days. You see, like, you know, legacy media articles talking about that as if it's like a negative thing. It's like as if every other industry doesn't do the exact same thing. And what I've been telling you guys for over a year now is that if you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. And January 20th of 2025, we got in the room. Like, we are in the room. The fact that the executive branch is so pro Bitcoin is fantastic. And Bo Hines, the reason that these words, that clip holds so much weight is he was working inside of the administration. And it was only until a couple weeks ago, about a month or so ago, that he decided to resign we don't know the reasons as to why, but it seemed like a very friendly resignation. Howard Lutnick was like, we appreciate the work that Bo Hines does. He's a very bright future. He said very bright things about the administration. He continues to do so. And he joined Tether very, very quickly. Now, Tether has a very close relationship with the U.S. government and the Trump administration as well. About a couple months ago, we had President Donald Trump name the CEO of Tether, Paulo, in the White House, and Paulo, you know, stood up in his chair. He was sitting in the front row of that press conference, and Trump pointed to him. And the reason for that is simple. You know, we played a clip of Preston Pish talking about this, but stablecoins are fantastic for the U.S. government, for the U.S. dollar. It propagates the dollar around the world. Also, Tether is in the top 10. I think it's number 7. I don't know the exact number, but one of the largest treasury buyers in the world. So the reason the Genius Act was signed so quickly, with so much enthusiasm, with so much bipartisan support, is because stablecoins essentially continue to allow the U.S. government to kick the can down the road, right? That's the enthusiasm. So again, just to kind of weave it back in and put the pieces together, you have Bo Hines, who was in charge of the acquiring Bitcoin initiative inside the executive branch, that now joined the private sector, joined Tether, one of the most profitable, if not the most profitable company in the world by employee. And he can say things now that he's not part of the administration. I remember some of the interviews that he was doing. He was very, what's the appropriate word? He was very, he was watching what he was saying. He couldn't say things outright. And that's because he was inside the administration. Now that he's outside of the administration, he's allowed to say his opinion. And his opinion, he's making it abundantly clear. He thinks that there's going to be pro-Bitcoin legislation that's going to be signed into office by the end of 2025. The language there was very clear, and this is someone who was an insider. And another thing that I'll say is there's kind of like a civil war going on. I was actually watching it on CNBC this morning. I saw Elizabeth Warren kind of flaying around and talking about the Fed's so-called independence. Now that you have President Trump putting pressure on Fed Governor Cook to step down for so-called mortgage fraud, it seems like they do have the receipts. So if the Trump administration has the receipts and the DOJ has the receipts, that Fed governor is not going to be able to resist that type of political pressure, and she's going to have to step down. If she steps down, that gives Trump a majority in the Fed, and if Trump has a majority in the Fed, that allows him to finally lower interest rates. And I believe a lot of the price action that has been happening this year in Bitcoin, and let's be frank and let's be honest here, everybody, at the beginning of the year, the day of Trump's inauguration, it was full of hope and happiness, and me and Opti were bouncing off the walls, or our live stream numbers were hitting all-time highs. And the price of Bitcoin was sitting at 109,000. 109,000. That was January 20th of 2025. We're currently August 27th of 2025. So basically 8 months later, on the verge of 9 months later, and the price has gone up 2K.
30%.
And it fell down to 76K. So as a Bitcoiner, perhaps I'm a little bit spoiled because of, previous cycles, and, Bitcoin's market cap was a lot smaller, so it was a lot easier to move in price terms. But, I'm not the only one saying this, right? British HODL is saying this as well. We are not in a bull market. But the moment that an announcement gets made that the US government has acquired Bitcoin, or the moment that an announcement is made that that essentially, just parts the ocean, so to speak, you're just going to see the price jump up just on the news alone. You have so many institutions buying Bitcoin. You have the UAE, I think, investing, I don't know what the exact number was, a significant amount of money, 700 million into Bitcoin. So now you have institutions, you have nation states, you have BlackRock gobbling up all the supply. MicroStrategy owns 3% of the total Bitcoin supply. So yeah, I mean, what could be happening, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to talk a little bit about this more, Opti. I'm going to pass it on to you because I know you have another piece of news, is, the OG whales that bought Bitcoin, because this apparently is the reasoning. This is what Willy Woo's talking about. This is what our boy Checkmatey is talking about. Vijay Boyapati, he's talking about this as well. Their reasoning as to why the Bitcoin price has not gone up is because you have these OG whales that bought Bitcoin under $100, under $10. They're up, thousands of % on their return, and they're selling tens of thousands, 20,000, 80,000 Bitcoin on the spot market, and that's putting down the sell pressure. Well, I got news for you. You can only do that one time. Eventually, you run out of Bitcoin to sell, and then the price, there's no more willing sellers at this price, and that's why the price goes up, right? So, to take the more optimistic side, because we are here with Opti, right? If you look at it from a glass half full, so to speak, and you are to believe those reasons, and you're not to believe the paper Bitcoin reason, the more nihilistic reasons, yeah, I mean, you're watching the greatest monetization event in human history, because those OGs that bought that Bitcoin at such small prices are now selling it to millions upon millions of individuals, institutions, governments. Hopefully, most of that Bitcoin, I know that's not the case, but hopefully at least a percentage, at least 30 or 40% of that Bitcoin is being gobbled up by individuals that are buying it spot and are putting it into self-custody. So that's incredible insider information by an ex-member of the administration who is specifically in charge of buying Bitcoin, dropping the sauce on what he believes is going to happen heading into the most explosive part of the Bitcoin bull market, which is the year after the halving. Q4 of the year after the halving. Historically, that's when the mania happens. Now, we're all kind of biting our nails, seeing to see if history is going to repeat itself. But so far, the cycle has not broken. So far, this historical cycle has not broken. So we're heading into uncharted territory. And I think the good news and the bad news, Opti, and I'll end it with this because I've been on a soapbox for quite a long time now, is if we don't get a pump at the end of the year, if we don't get a mania, if we don't get some type of parabola, I don't think we're going to have 80 to 70 to 60% corrections anymore. Because to have 80 to 60 to 70% corrections, what needs to happen is you need to have a mania phase. You need to have a euphoria phase. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been living through this entire year, and I haven't felt euphoric at all. There's been a bunch of teases. It's been a bunch of like, oh, getting excited, and then nothing happens. So until you get that euphoria phase, you don't get that 50, 60% correction. So as a whole, as a business owner, working in the Bitcoin industry, that'd be fantastic for us because you don't get a 50, 60% correction. But simultaneously, as a Bitcoin holder, it's like, dude, wait a second. Is Bitcoin becoming the S&P? Is it just going to do this small, this like crab, 10% up, consolidate, 10% up, consolidate? Is that going to be the case? I was watching an episode, shout out Danny Knows with what Bitcoin did, where he did an interview with Willy Woo, and Willy Woo was basically like, look, it takes 10 times more capital for Bitcoin to move at a $2 trillion market cap that it took Bitcoin to move when it was sitting at a $200 billion market cap. And that is 100% true. That is 100% correct. Willy Woo is on the dot there, right? So anyways, just to unpack a lot of things that were on my mind, but I'm a big fan of Bo. We need more Bo. The Bo is fantastic. Opti.
Great American name there, Bo Hines. Yeah, well, I do want to take a flip side of what you're saying, because we have seen a lot of selling. I don't know if we literally can't cover all the coins that are being moved to the exchange every single day, because you guys would probably get bored about that. But I just saw another tranche of coins hit the exchange this morning from like a 2012 holder. So like a lot of the OGs are, you can say they're selling, they're basically locking in their profits, they're increasing their livelihood here. But the real bullish angle of that, Nico, is the fact that Bitcoin hasn't really dropped, and it's able to basically assimilate this many coins hitting the market, and we're still doing really well considering the price. Like we haven't gone under 100K yet. Bitcoin dumped, did a measly negative 10% drop, and we were all freaking out. Back in the day, a negative 10% drop was just like a day-to-day event here in Bitcoin. And now we're seeing that the numbers are increasing by a lot. It's hundreds of thousands of coins that are being hit, that are hitting the exchange. And you can make the case. I've made the case on the show for a lot of different reasons. Whether that is, as Nico's been kind of hitting on, they're rolling into Bitcoin treasury stocks, or they are trying to do like their last-ditch effort to get lower prices on the coin because they know there's going to be an infinite bid from sovereigns, institutions, sovereign wealth funds, institutions, nation states, etc. It is a very interesting time, and that's just like the price stuff. But I did want to bring up one other thing, because it wasn't just Bo Hines saying that this is coming. We did also last week at the Wyoming Blockchain Summit, literally days before Jackson Hole Fed meeting, Senator Lummis said the same thing. We will have market structure done this year. So we're getting multiple data points that this is probably where things are headed, that by the end of the year, hopefully, maybe this is what will essentially cancel the 2026 bear market that we all think will eventually come. And if it is a slow grind, 2026 is going to probably be continuation of a slow grind, which I'm all for. Anyways, let's go and do a little rehash of what is in the Bitcoin Act, just so you guys know exactly maybe what will potentially be on the horizon. And of course, here I'm on page 4. The first part is kind of just like, you know, covering terms and what's going on here. But the main part is probably here, and this is 18 pages. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But page 4, we have section 4, establishment of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, which happened. You know, the Secretary shall establish a decentralized network of secure Bitcoin storage facilities distributed across the U.S., collectively to be known as the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve for the cold storage of government Bitcoin holdings. Purpose, basically, they shall be used for the generation, safekeeping, and management of Bitcoin private keys associated with the Bitcoin holdings. The Secretary will be responsible for this. In general, the Secretary shall ensure that the facilities of the SBR are geographically dispersed throughout the U.S. to minimize the risk of simultaneous compromise and to enhance the resilience of the SBR. And then on page 7 is where, if this happens, is where things start to get crazy. Or rather, here, we'll go to page 6 first. Of course, upon the market capitalization assessment, upon the expiration of the 5-year holding period, again, they're going to hold this for minimum 5 years. And then this is where it starts getting crazy. If they do pass this year, then that unlimited bid to the Bitcoin floor will have been activated. And David Bailey's been saying this on his Twitter. I'm guessing he has a little more insight. I don't know if you guys saw, but they just did a $5 billion ATM at the market offering for Nakamoto. So another $5 billion coming in. It's no longer just Saylor out here. And I'm going to talk about this a little later in the culture because Financial Times, the Fiat Times is really, really dunking on the Bitcoin treasury companies, which is starting to make me feel extremely bullish. But anyways, the Bitcoin purchase program in general, the Secretary shall establish a Bitcoin purchase program, which shall purchase 200,000 Bitcoins per year over a 5-year period for a total acquisition of 1 million Bitcoin. So this is where it starts getting incredibly bullish here. Now, you could say this is bearish. You could say, hey, we don't want the U.S. government to hold that much Bitcoin. But again, Bitcoin's for enemies. We really can't stop them from doing what they want to do here. But if we do see a 200K bid of Bitcoin every year for 5 years from now, who knows what that does to the price? And then that's only one nation. The dominoes will fall very, very fast. And as we've seen around the world in the recent weeks, nation states are acquiring Bitcoin. So if this does pass, and there seems to be a lot of optimism that it is going to pass, potentially this year, end of year, dude, we got a 200K a year bid on buying Bitcoin. That would soak up all of the coin we've seen currently coming from the OG selling. This thing could rip like this. If that happens and then other nations start following, guys, I don't know about you, but that's the infinite floor bid there.
Yeah, I mean, I completely
The eternal
agree.
bid. The eternal bid.
The eternal bid, bro. We should put that on the ticker and just have it on the bottom. But no, I fundamentally agree with you, Opti. I mean, I think the part to me where it's a little bit, you know, I guess patience is a virtue, right? Is you're seeing all this fantastic news, right? You're seeing all this Bitcoin being bought, but you don't see the price action reflecting that. Ron P in the chat says a long-standing Bitcoin whale identified as a younger person, as a 12-year-old wallet, a 12-year-old wallet that originally held 5,000 BTC has transferred 500 BTC to Binance today, yet still retains approximately 3,500 BTC. So yeah, I mean, but like think about it, gals and bros. If you were buying Bitcoin for $10 or $100 or $1,000 and you have 3,500 Bitcoin or 5,000 Bitcoin and you want to sell 500 of those Bitcoin, that's $50 million to upgrade your lifestyle. Like I don't blame you, dude. You know, like I don't blame you. I understand. But what I'm trying to say is like, look, eventually that Bitcoin's gonna run out because they can only sell that Bitcoin once, right? And then eventually, you know, you're gonna start to see a supply shock. Like I'm still waiting for that. Like there is no, if you take Knut Svanholm's meme of infinity divided by 21 million. I mean, this is simple math. Like, this isn't rocket science, bro. Like, it's very easy to understand where this is going. Now, I think the question on everybody's mind is, are the cycles still a thing? Are we going to have a correction in 2026? You know, Willy Woo was talking about the business cycle. There was going to be a gnarly correction in 2026. Are we going to see that? Are we going to see a blow off top? Are we going to see a mania phase? Are we going to see a parabola phase? Did we already hit the top? Was 125 the top? And I think that's what's on everybody's minds. But the exciting part is we're going to find out in the next 3 or 4 months. We're going to find out. It's going to become very obvious to everybody. Anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, we did just break 10,000 subscribers on Rumble. Air horn, Opti, please. Smash that like button wherever you guys are watching it. Shout out to the X audience. Shout out to the YouTube audience. 600 of you guys watching live on YouTube. 1,200 of you guys watching live on X. And about 70 of you guys watching live on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying today's show, smash that like button. We have a fantastic show for you guys. Tons of stuff to cover. Tons of stuff to talk about. But before we jump into today's show, and I'm going to give a little bit of a tease. So we're going to be playing you guys a video that we made in-house at Simply Bitcoin, talking about the modern history of fiat money, and the voiceover is being done by Internet Sophie, who we just announced yesterday. She officially has her own show by popular demand. The name of the show is going to be called Simply Satoshi. It's a pun, I guess. I think it's really smart. And then we have a video by Jack Mahlers explaining the housing crisis, right? Because I think you all feel it, especially if you guys are part of the younger generation. And then, of course, Opti's going to come in strong during the culture segment. And I forgot to give away sats yesterday, so we're going to be giving away.
I gave them all away yesterday.
Okay,
no, I didn't
so-
give them all away. I gave them the sats and I gave them the unclaimed sats. So
How much,
we caught up.
how much unclaimed sats were there?
It was like 1,100 sats or something.
1,100 sats.
Yeah, they
Okay,
got about a dollar.
So, well, $1 today. When $1
Dollar
sat
today,
parodies, I guess that's-
generational wealth in a few years.
So we're going to be giving away some sats towards the end of the show during the culture segment, so you guys are going to want to stay tuned in. But before we get into that, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to, of course, our lead sponsor. Simply Bitcoin would not be here today without our partners. So if you guys want to support the show, check out our partners. We're very picky on who we choose to partner with, and our lead sponsor is the best place by far to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. To get started, you scan the QR code. It takes you to bitcoinwell.com/simply. You put in your email address. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. And the reason you want to use bitcoinwell.com/simply is because it'll give you 3 tosses into the wishing well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats every toss, right? Also, if you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC to get started. It's for family offices. It's for high net worth individuals. It's for trusts. It's for organizations. It's fantastic. So to get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC, schedule a call with the Bitcoin Well Infinite team today. All right, everybody, let's get into the show. We have tons to talk about. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the triple the heat on the back.
All right, everybody. Guys, don't write down your seed words on paper. Stamp them into titanium. Use promo code SIMPLY. Go to stampseed.com today.
It feels like $112.
Block height 911,962, sats per dollar 893, market cap 2.23 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.34%, decline from all-time high. Bitcoin's currently at a discount, negative 10%. You're buying Bitcoin right now, you're getting it at a 10% discount. Realize monetary inflation 0.84% in the grand scheme of things. Bitcoin is taking fiat currencies to absolute school. They just admitted they're not taking fiat inflation back to 2%. They're moving that number up back to 3%. Bitcoin is taking all fiat currencies to absolute school. Anyways, our boys over here at Simply Bitcoin, the Simply Bitcoin team's coming in hot with
The
these
Zoomers.
the Simply Bitcoin Zoomers are coming in hot, coming up with these custom-made
I like calling them commercials, dude. I like calling them Bitcoin
AI videos. Anyways, I'm gonna play it. It goes through the whole history of fiat money, and then of course me and Opti are gonna talk about it. Let's need to find it. Let's check it out.
There was a time when money meant something. Gold-backed dollars carried stability. Families saved, nations prospered, and trust was earned, not printed. But in 1910, behind closed doors at Jekyll Island, the rules of money began to change. By 1913, the Federal Reserve seized control, a small group with immense power over everyone's wealth. Then came 1933. FDR signed Executive Order 6102. Ordinary Americans were forced to surrender their gold. Owning it was a crime. The link between people and honest money was broken. Towards the tail end of World War II, a deal was struck in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The US dollar was crowned king of the world, but only so long as it was tethered to gold. That promise shattered in 1971 when President Nixon severed the final tie as he made this statement.
Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
Dollars became paper, and paper became power. Backed by nothing but trust in governments and central banks. What followed was predictable. Decades of inflation, easy money, debt climbing higher with every generation, booms and busts, bubbles and bailouts. Then came the decades of debt, cheap credit, asset bubbles, and a silent tax called inflation. Until 2008 was the breaking point. A global financial crisis. Banks were rescued while ordinary people paid the price. But out of that chaos came a spark of hope, the Genesis block. It ignited a fire in cyberspace. Satoshi Nakamoto gave the world Bitcoin. Incorruptible, scarce, and free from manipulation. Since then, the printing presses have only roared louder, especially in 2020 when we were faced with a pandemic and trillions were conjured from thin air. Prices soared, trust eroded. The fiat experiment showed its cracks. And today, a choice stands before us. Continue down the path of endless inflation, or step into a future built on sound money once again. Bitcoin is that future. A money by the people, for the people. The fiat century is ending, and the Bitcoin standard is just beginning.
Bars, bro. Yeah, I mean, much more effective than what we do. Oh man, I mean, dude, what a comprehensive. Well, first off, shout out to the Zoomer team and then Sophie for the voiceover. That was incredible. Kind of like a history of fiat money and all the stuff that was happening in the background. So yeah, I mean, yeah. What do you have to say, Opti?
Yeah, well, obviously, excuse me, choking on my saliva. As like kind of the guy overseeing this from the high level here, because we got the Zoomers that are doing the actual work, and then I have to kind of approve the stuff. My biggest takeaway when I saw this was, me, I'm mainly like a vibes guy, and when I first saw this, like I genuinely got like the hairs to lift on my arm. I'm like, all right, this is ready to go. Like this is the way. And watching this, it really does seem to me that these AI videos and the narratives on Bitcoin, not only are they short and palatable here, and you can send them to your friends and family, and they'll probably watch it because maybe their little monkey brains, the pea brains that we all have now, are more attracted to the AI videos just because it's something new and fresh. But it's really starting to dawn on me just the power of these like AI commercials. I like calling them commercials. These Bitcoin commercials, like they do feel more powerful than what we've seen in the past of Bitcoin propaganda. And I'm super excited to keep doing these. Like we're gonna keep doing these for you guys, and I think they're gonna get better and better and better every single time. So
all right, I'll be right back.
I
One
mean,
second.
I'm throwing this out here. We'll have like a series of these, and then we can you can just send them to your friends and family, and they can get the whole Bitcoin message. And to everyone yelling at me in the chat, I will figure out. We'll probably play that in the beginning of the show, so you guys don't just sit here for a little bit with no hype videos. I'm working on it, guys. Give me some time. Give me a little leeway. We have a lot of things that are working in tandem here. Okay, so it's soon. Okay, very soon.
We're gonna have a great surprise for you guys in September. I gotta raise the brightness on it. Oh no, it's too low. There we go. A little bit brighter. We got a surprise for you guys lined up in September. Really excited to reveal it. But I mean, I think that video speaks for itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we still got a lot to cover during today's show. Jack Mallers also made an incredible video covering essentially the housing crisis. Preston Pish was talking about it as well on Natalie Burnell's show, Coin Stories. And then of course we did some research here at Simply Bitcoin, just pulling up all the data, some posts by BitPayne, and just seeing the disconnect with the medium age of a first-time home buyer it's 40 years old. That's the highest it's ever been since 2002, just to kind of give you guys a perspective. And the people responsible for this are the Federal Reserve. It's central banking. So anyways, guys, we have an incredible show. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you can pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 5-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel, Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. If you guys are enjoying today's show, make sure to smash that like button. We're at 576 live viewers on YouTube. On Rumble, we're at 12,800 live viewers popping off on Rumble. And on X, we're at 1,500 live viewers on Rumble. Keeps going up, 13,000 live viewers on Rumble. Holy cow. Anyhow, if you guys are enjoying today's show, smash that like button. You're listening to the most watched Bitcoin-only show on planet Earth. Simply Bitcoin live Monday through Friday, 12 what is it? What's our start time? 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, rain or shine, Monday through Friday, where we cover the best in Bitcoin news. All right, everybody. So let's cover today's news. What are we talking about? The medium age of first-time homebuyers is now 40 years old. The Simply Bitcoin crew said fiat robbed an entire generation of the American dream. But Jack Mallers actually came out with a fantastic video doing a deeper breakdown into this very subject. And then we have a clip of Preston Pish on Natalie Burnell's podcast, Coin Stories.
Bitcoin is going to demonetize real estate. A house is not supposed to be a savings account. It's not supposed to be what you exchange your effort and labor for. You acquire a house to consume it and live in it. It's not a money. Unfortunately, because the world has been robbed of money, robbed of the market good that they're supposed to save and exchange in, and that market good has been manipulated and debased and controlled, people have had to resort to things like real estate as money. And so real estate is distorted. It's artificially expensive. And so Bitcoin will dematerialize that for all of the money that's in real estate, not to consume it, but rather to save in it. That money will go to Bitcoin over time. And what that will do is it will drive the Bitcoin price up and it will drive the real estate prices down. Guys, when I got into Bitcoin, my dream house was 100,000 Bitcoins. And then some years later, my dream house was 10,000 Bitcoins. And then some years later, my dream house was 1,000. And then some years later, my dream house was 100. And then some years later, my dream house was 10. Now, the average American home you can get for 3-4 coins. So I think within the next decade, you can get a medium-sized house in the United States for less than 1 Bitcoin. And so the best way to become a homeowner and a purchaser of land, of real estate, is to stay humble and stack sats.
All right, everybody, there you have Jack Mallers breaking it down. It's as simple as that. You know, again, everything gets more expensive on a fiat standard. Everything gets cheaper on a Bitcoin standard. Here is Preston talking about it on Natalie's podcast.
Equity markets are sky high. Everybody's still feeling pain despite that setup. And they're screaming for rates to be lower and maybe even artificially kept lower so that everybody can refi their house. Right. Like, what do you think the ramifications of that are going to be for the prices of homes long term? They're going to rip. They're going to rip even higher than what you're already, like if we jump 5 years into the future. So all of these things are a manifestation or an example of the currency melting down, in my humble opinion. And so, when people are like, oh my God, how in the world can anybody afford a house? Well, just go like price the house in Bitcoin for like the last 10 years every year. And what you're going to find is the price just keeps going lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
And if somebody's like, what did he just say? Yeah, rewind the tape and listen to what I just said. The prices keep going lower and lower in Bitcoin terms. And it's just going to, in my opinion, it's just going to keep going that way.
So again, very simple, guys. Very simple. You want to know why you can't afford a home? You want to know why everything's getting more expensive? Is because you're using the wrong unit of account. Jack Mallers laid it out beautifully in the beginning with that video that he made, literally making the case as to why things get cheaper. Here's our boy BitPain. I find this hilarious. Dear boomers, we can rent and stack Bitcoin longer than you can remain alive. Either you drop your ask or we'll save our bid for your real estate sale. And I find there's this one response that was hilarious. John Ezig said, stack away. I'm having my home raised upon my death, you entitled clown. By the way, boomers didn't have a say, just as you don't. We've all been played. Just don't play the victim. BitPain, thank you for making that point for me, boomer. By the way, we love boomers here at Simply Bitcoin. Gary Leland, Larry Lepard, they're
the boomers
fantastic.
in the chat.
They're fantastic. So we love, there's so many good Bitcoin boomers. So yeah, it's not monolithic, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think this is the same one. But anyways, so let's go to one of my favorite websites. By the way, I'm going to put it in the chat. You guys should go check it out. I'm going to put it in the Rumble chat and in the YouTube chat so you guys can go check it out. And for the audio listeners, if you want to see it after the show, it's called What the F Happened in 1971. So let's talk about this, right? So what the F happened in 1971? Well, Richard Nixon took the United States off of the gold standard. And to reference the video that we played for you guys in the beginning of the show, the one that the Simply Bitcoin team made with Sophie's voiceover, the promise when gold was made illegal was that it was going to be pegged to a certain amount of gold was going to be pegged to the dollar. That was the deal, right? That was the deal. That was the deal that the American people were sold on. And then that deal, over time, when the government wanted to spend more money it didn't have, they unpegged the dollar, right? They unpegged the dollar from gold, so that allowed the government to print as much money as their heart desires. There's no constraint anymore, right? Now, there are unintended consequences of this. And this is something, by the way, that has been happening throughout human history. You can trace it back. You can make a very good argument that one of the main reasons as to why the Roman Empire fell was because of inflation, currency debasement. You could see that in the beginning of the Roman Republic, you could see the quantity of gold per I think their currency is called the denarii or something like that. But the Roman currency that they were using, the quantity of, I don't think it was gold, I think it was silver. The quantity of silver per, the Roman coin, and you could see it declining, throughout the centuries. To the point that at the end of the Roman Empire, I think the quantity of silver per coin was like 0.000 something, and it started at like 85%, right? So what did they do? They did the exact same thing. They debased the currency, and there's unintended consequences of that. There are spiritual consequences. I've talked about this at length in many podcasts. There are economic consequences, but of course here on Simply Bitcoin, we're going to focus on the economic consequences. So, and also cultural consequences as well. So the first one, worker pay has not kept pace with productivity since the 1970s. So again, what the F happened in 1971? So hourly compensation and then net productivity. So this is what we keep telling you about. We keep telling you that productivity continues to increase because of technology. And things should be getting cheaper. As Jeff Booth has said many times, the natural state of the free market is deflationary, but on a fiat standard, it's actually inflationary. And then moving down, real GDP versus real wages, right? So the country and the world is getting wealthier, but the compensation that people are receiving is staying stagnant. Why is that? Real income gains widen, shared in early post-war decades, but not since then, right? So 1970, what happened? And this is what we keep telling you. This is the argument we keep making on Simply Bitcoin. Every time the government prints money, if you're in the lower and middle classes, you probably don't have a lot of means to save in assets, meaning you don't have disposable income to put into savings. So your savings are fiat. Your earnings are in fiat. If you are wealthy, you do have the disposable income to invest in assets. And every time they print money, those assets go up in value in dollar terms. But they're not really going up they're not actually going up in value. What's happening is you're seeing inflation. But your purchasing power, the dollars that you've earned, isn't going up with the value of the goods and services around you. That's why you feel poor. That's why the millennial generation feels poor. That's why the Zoomer generation feels poor. That's why the Alpha generation is going to feel even poorer than the Zoomer generation. It's because of fiat money. So when you hear very popular YouTubers and very politicians talking about it's the rich, we have to address inequality. You have to remember, have this in the back of your mind. They are the cause of the wealth inequality in the first place. They caused it. When they took money off the gold standard, when in 2008, 2009, no banker went to jail and the quantitative easing experiment started, that was the cause for the wealth inequality today. And politicians made those decisions. So going back to politicians and asking for a solution, that is, what's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing and expecting different results? It's time to try something new. It's time to pick a different color. It's time to pick a different party, right? So instead of voting for the right, instead of voting for the left, I'm not saying voting isn't important. It is important. Vote for pro-Bitcoin candidates. Instead of voting for red team or voting for blue team, how about you vote for the orange team? Because if you've been saving and earning in fiat, if your money has been in Bitcoin, you can live the American dream. And you don't even need to be in America. You could be anywhere around the world. And if you've been saving in Bitcoin, as Jack Mallers pointed out in his video, that dream house that you wanted has actually been getting cheaper for the last 16 years. But if you're looking at the world through the lens of fiat, that dream house that you wanted, it just gets more and more and more and more expensive. A politician isn't going to save you here. You have to take the agency over your own life and make the decision on which money you want to use. And I promise you that if you choose sound money, your life will get better because things all around you will naturally get cheaper because, as Jeff Booth says, that is the natural state of the free market. And because Bitcoin can't be manipulated by politicians, by governments, because it has an absolute scarcity of 21 million, it is the only thing that is able to properly reflect the natural state of the free market, which is deflationary. The world gets richer every decade. But under a fiat standard, only the quintillionaires, only the people that are the closest to the money spigot are the ones that are actually going to benefit from that said system. Under a Bitcoin standard, it doesn't matter whether you have 1,000 Bitcoin or whether you have 0.01 Bitcoin, you are going to benefit equally. You're going to benefit equally as Michael Saylor. If you're a pleb with 1 million sats, you're going to benefit equally. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It democratizes money. It's rulers without rulers. It's rules without rulers. Anyways, that's the end of my rant. I got hyped up, bro. Those videos. Jack Mallers dropping the fire and press and pish on Natalie Burnell, breaking it down like he always does. Opti, what's your take, brother?
Well, first off, I do want to comment on the Jack Mallers video, and it made me think like the production and the Bitcoin propaganda is getting so good. I like that video. That was like just the overall aesthetics of that video was great. Shouts out to whoever's editing Jack Mallers videos. They're doing a great job. Hey, hit us up. But at this point, man, it's funny because every time you bring up housing, the chat gets super triggered, and there's like a divide. There's probably people that have a house, maybe a little older than us. You know, their mortgage is cheaper than rent, and they're super happy. And you know, I'm happy for them. If I had got some, really good deals to buy a house, I would be super hyped too. On my side, like I don't even really like to have this conversation anymore. It's like I don't want to buy houses. I want to buy Bitcoin. You know, at this point in my life where I am right now, I am happy with renting. It gives me mobility. Literally, I wouldn't be down here in Miami now if I was like buying a house because I'd have so many different considerations if I had bought something in Texas or something like that. And yeah, of course, I could have bought a house and then rented it, but that's just more complexity than I want right now. Like I just want to own as much Bitcoin as possible. When I'm ready to buy a house, my Bitcoin will have gone up and I'll be able to buy their houses. I'll be able to buy a house. Like, and I really love the BitPain tweet. He's really been doubling down on this. Like, what is it? If you think I'm going to buy your real estate for 10x, you're wrong. You can buy my Bitcoin at 1,000x. I just love the dunks. To me, it's just fun, man. Where I'm at, like, and really, I don't like to get into the conversation of housing because a lot of people kind of fall into, I'm going to say fall into the trap of being like, oh, quit complaining. You can work and, you're young and millennials are lazy.
Put on a bow tie.
Yeah. If you just work harder, if you wear a suit and you look nice, then you can also buy a house. And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Firm handshake. Firm
handshake. Eye contact, all that good, like making your bed and cleaning your room and all those good heuristics and things they tell us to live a better life. I don't even like to have this. I'm just like, look, I don't want to buy your house. Like, I don't want to buy a house right now. I'm cool with renting. I'm cool with stacking Bitcoin. And then it really gets into a lot of like, moral kind of conversations, and then it does have like the left and right divide in all of this, and it becomes political. I just side skirt this. Look, I don't want to buy a house. I want Bitcoin. And if you're young and you're in your mid 30s and you don't have a family, or you're younger, like, you can't make money like the boomers did on real estate. Real estate was the tried and true way to become a millionaire, multi-millionaire, decamillionaire. Now it's an outdated strategy as far as I'm concerned. Like, you really want to come up in life, just do your job and save in Bitcoin. And when you're ready, and you could argue that there might be some kind of housing market correction on the horizon. Though I might take the flip side. I think the Feds are going to do whatever they can to prop up the housing market, because they know their constituents, all the people that are voting for them they're on paper really rich because of the real estate. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that the housing market doesn't pop, or the housing bubble doesn't pop. So in that case, it's like, all right, cool. You know, like keep those prices artificially high. I'm going to stack Bitcoin when I'm ready to buy a house, as Jack Maulers, as we've been explaining on this show, as all the memes explain. You know, life just gets cheaper on Bitcoin. So eventually we'll be buying, what was the memes? Eventually we'll be buying houses for 0.21 Bitcoin. And at that point, it's like, all right, thank you for your mansion. Here's 10 million sats. I'm all for that. So in the meantime, you know, we're just playing a different game. It's a new era, and the game has changed. And if you're not adapting to the new game, which is the Bitcoin accumulation game, you know, you can try these old strategies. But I keep referencing this tweet, or I forget, maybe it was advice someone told me, but I read it somewhere.
Okay.
It's basically the idea, like, if you want to succeed in the 21st century where we are right now, like, you can't be doing the safe bets. The safe bets no longer work. Like, you do have to take a risk. And for a lot of people, buying Bitcoin, going all in, putting all of your network behind Bitcoin, or, you know, saving in Bitcoin with everything you got, like, the collective view of this is the risky move. From our perspective, this is the safest bet to do. But from, you know, what your peers might say to you if you do it, the risky move right now for a lot of people is what we do, is saving everything in Bitcoin and going all in on this. But where we are right now, the safe bets no longer work. And the safest bet for the longest time is just, you know, become a real estate mogul. I've seen so many Instagram reels where they go around and they're like, we got the hack for you to become a millionaire. Like, we talked to 10 different millionaires and 8 out of the 10 of them became a millionaire because of real estate. And it's like, I'm sure you can make it happen, but there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of, you know, stuff you have to do to maintain the house. It's just a lot simpler to buy Bitcoin. You know, rent, buy Bitcoin, live a good life. Like, you live in a decent spot. You don't have to pay, you know, like $10 million for a house. You just rent the house for 5-10 years. And in that time, you'll be able to buy a house for the Bitcoin you have at a less price of Bitcoin. It's like, dude, it literally makes no financial sense to me right now. It's just like, buy Bitcoin, chill. We'll buy their houses at whatever price we want to in the future. So, and then also, that's not even talking about the I forget who posted it. Excuse me, hold on. The market right now is crazy. There is more sellers than buyers by like 500,000 homes right now. Like, everyone wants to get out of their house right now, and there's no one to buy this stuff. Like, look, I'm not gonna be the sucker that's buying this stuff right now. You know, also, I can't buy this house, but hey, it's all good, man. I'll buy Bitcoin, and eventually.
Bro, I'm not buying the bags. I'm not buying. Bro, remember that rant that I went on? Like, I went on a rant. Like, and Opti's like, Nico, calm down. Because I was like, dude, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, you guys have to understand, it's inflated. It's not. This isn't the utility value of real estate. Like, I'll put it to you this way: real estate shouldn't be seen as an investment. It's seen as an investment because the money's broken. And because the money is broken, it forces people that have wealth to find assets that are going to outpace the rate of inflation. That's why real estate has become this form of investment. But on a sound money standard, all of a sudden that gets switched. Because if you're, let's say you're renting properties, that's like a big thing, right? And you want like a 10% cap, 8% cap, right? So it's like an 8% or 10% rate of return, plus you have to pay the property. Like, all of the things factor in, right? You buy a rental property or an Airbnb property. Is that going to be 30% annual CAGR of Bitcoin for the next 20 years, which is what Michael Saylor is anticipating? No. Without the headache of dealing with tenants, without the headache of dealing with taxes, without the headache of dealing with maintenance, you just buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody, forget about it. And then what's going to happen? All of a sudden, people aren't going to see real estate as an investment anymore. If they don't see real estate as an investment anymore, what happens to the price of real estate? It goes down, right? It's artificially inflated because of broken money. And that's the message. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Hive Digital Technology. Why Hive in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, Hive's positioned to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, Hive's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at HiveDigitalTech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring launching act growth.
All right, Nico, before we move on, I got to acknowledge, dude, every time we talk about renting over buying a house or housing markets and stuff, everyone freaks out on both sides. It's honestly amazing.
Oh, really? I haven't been paying attention to
yeah,
the chat.
dude, every time we bring it up, it's like it's interesting that this is the most like divisive conversation.
Okay, I'm gonna set up a poll. What should the question be?
should you rent or buy a home?
Should you rent?
Like, it's honestly hilarious. That's not what we're covering today on the culture. I do have some articles here, but I just find it hilarious. Every time we brought this up, it's like we step into a landmine, and there's very strong opinions on every side of the aisle, and it cracks me up. Anyways, just looking at the chat.
Wait. I effed up that poll. I said, should you rent or buy a home? And I put yes or no.
Wow, boomer confirmed. Confirmed. Okay.
All right, go for
just delete it. Do it again. Yeah. Anyway, interesting social commentary there. That every time we talk about this, it's like doesn't matter. Like we talked about so many different things, and at times we think we'd get in hot water and stuff. But every time you bring up renting or buying a house, everyone freaks out. It's so funny to me. Okay. Anyways,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the renting is up 67%. 18 votes. 20 votes, 62, 26, 30 votes, 60 to 40, 60 to 40, 35 votes.
Okay.
60,
All
40,
right.
60,
We'll come back to this.
42 votes, 62, 38, 62, 38.
Because I do have some interesting stuff here coming out of the Fiat Times, aka the Financial Times. So I mentioned this yesterday. It looks like the Financial Times is picking up on something we've said for a while, which is starting to make me change my position on it. Anytime I agree with the Financial Times, I got to reevaluate. And here we go. First and foremost, this one was 2 days ago, and I wouldn't have brought this up if they didn't drop another article today in a very similar vein, which really kind of leads into this idea that I've been saying on the show, that it does seem like Wall Street or these institutions, these, the trustworthy people, the experts, are really freaking out about Bitcoin treasury companies. And there's been a lot of calls that the Bitcoin treasury companies are the Ponzi. Even Nico said, and we said on the show, it does seem like the Bitcoin treasury companies are like the new ICO craze. Now, is that the case? Who knows exactly? I think a lot of these companies will be okay. As we've been saying, some of the smaller ones might be a little more of a risk here. But the fact that Financial Times is starting to pick up on this and they're constantly dropping these articles, it's making me believe that there is a lot more going on with these Bitcoin treasury companies than would probably meet the eye. And I think Saylor's the best example of this. With all his different products, yes, he's getting a lot of hate. There's been a lot of speculations around what Saylor's doing, whether it's good or not. And it's interesting that every time Saylor announces a new buy for Strategy, it seems like the stock dumps, which would make you believe there's someone out there that does not want to see Strategy be successful, because it does kind of expose the whole sham here. If all you have to do is buy Bitcoin and outperform everything else, what exactly are all these 493 zombie companies doing in the S&P 500? Like, what are they doing? Why are they even there? If 7 companies are basically the ones leading and continuing to push up the S&P 500 and make the world prosperous, it sounds like that's the real Ponzi scheme here. Anyways, the title here from the Financial Times, and this dropped 2 days ago, I believe, August 25th, Monday. And again, I wouldn't have brought this up, but we got another one today, and they're saying the same thing. So the headline is, why Bitcoin treasury companies are a fool's paradise in a crypto winter. The consequences could be painful for investors. Strategy is the best performing stock, maybe even better than Nvidia. Those are the 2 best performing stocks right now, and they're fighting it. But the interesting thing is how they start this article. They do that academic intelligentsia kind of article where they start with a totally different story and then they get into it to kind of make parallels. And of course, this one, they start with Charles Ponzi, basically saying that the Bitcoin treasury companies are a Ponzi scheme. I'm not even going to read this article, but you can see here, it goes, depending on whether you're a signed up crypto bro or not, Bitcoin is either a brilliant innovation to move the world away from corruptible fiat currencies or a vast competent trick. Again, who are the readers of Financial Times, the Fiat Times? It is people that aren't necessarily Bitcoiners. And this is why we call them the Fiat Times, is because they do have this, bent against Bitcoin. They are fiat maxis. So if you got to remember where you're getting your information from. And if you're getting it from the Financial Times, then they are hell bent on making you not want to buy Bitcoin or have Bitcoin exposure in your 401ks. Now, again, I wouldn't have brought this up today, but they followed it up with another article, Strategy sagging Bitcoin strategy. And they dropped this right before we went live 4 hours ago. And, of course, they got to acknowledge the elephant in the room. That Strategy is outperforming everything else, and all he's doing is buying Bitcoin and then creating new products to tap into new capital markets. And there seems to be incredible demand for this, even though the stock is kind of being pummeled right now. But you can see that what they say here, it feels like the magic is fading. And so we, have been following this along on the show for a while. While we're not the biggest fan of Bitcoin treasury companies per se, we're not against them, we believe that you should be buying Bitcoin. If these companies are doing so well, you should probably just follow those strategies for yourself. Now, of course, there's caveats. If you have a traditional, portfolio here and it's hard for you to get your money out because of penalties or whatever variable that might make you be hesitant, obviously a Bitcoin treasury strategy, I think, is probably a good move for a lot of people. But it is interesting to see that the Fiat Times is going so hard against these Bitcoin treasury companies. And now part of it, they could just be picking up on sentiment or that Bitcoiners have been talking about. We've been saying it on the show. It does seem kind of bubblish. It does seem like, something might eventually happen. But the more they pile on this idea, the more I just want to counter trade this and be a contrarian and be like, no, the Bitcoin, if they're this afraid of Bitcoin treasury companies, of people adding Bitcoin to their treasuries, now it doesn't mean they have to do the ATM, strategy playbook, but the more they start to hate on Bitcoin treasury companies, the more just the contrarian Bitcoiner in me is just believing these are probably good things. If the Fiat Times doesn't like it, then this is a good thing. They've been making obituaries around Bitcoin forever. And now they're doing it on Bitcoin treasury companies. So maybe this is some hopium for you guys that are holding Bitcoin treasuries. Obviously, I don't. I don't even hold Bitcoin. Boating accidents and all.
What is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin?
Yeah, what is it? We just talked about it. But it's starting to feel like these treasury companies are going to go higher a lot longer than anyone wants to believe. And that's just, my gut feeling here. So they are attacking Bitcoin treasury companies, specifically Michael Saylor, because he is, and cherry picking data here and stuff bro, Saylor's eating their lunch. And the real takeaway from this is they do not want this strategy, or rather this signal, to spread. Remember when we were covering the El Salvador Bitcoin announcement, we all wondered, why did not other countries follow suit? Now we're seeing other countries other corporations follow strategy, and we're seeing hit pieces on it. What's the meme, Nico? You get the most slack once you're over the target. This is the vibe that I'm starting to feel from the corporate press out here in regards to Bitcoin, Bitcoin treasury strategies, Bitcoin accumulation. So, you know, a lot of this bearish takes on Bitcoin just at large, it's starting to make me feel extremely bullish. Like, we are going way higher. We're going higher, and they're going to freak out more, and it's going to be glorious.
I hope so. I hope so, man. We've been saying we're going higher. We're going. What's that song? That song.
Creed?
Yeah. How's it go?
I don't know. I don't sing. That's so.
Yeah, we have to have something. Anyways, the point is, we've been saying that we're going to go higher for the last year or so. I'll believe it when I see it, bro. I think Bitcoin's a stable coin now.
Dude, Nico, you can just not help yourself and be a bear.
I think they should just call Bitstable. They should change Bitcoin's name to Bitstable. Bitstable.
Wait, what? Oh,
Instead
Bitstable.
of Bitcoin, just Bitstable.
Wait. Do I have something here? Hold on.
Bitstable.
Have it? I have it.
Bitstable.
Here we go. There we go. Can you take me higher? Everyone says it.
Can you take?
Yeah, in inverse corporate press. This is the way.
So, anyways, we're at that time of the show, ladies and gentlemen, where we are going to give away some sats. Actually, our friends over at Bitcoin Well are going to give away some sats. We're going to toss a coin into the wishing well. Bam, bing, bam, boom. Toss a coin. You're tossing a coin, ladies and gentlemen. Ding. And get your lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won 526 sats today. If you use bitcoinwell.com/simply, that URL, it's in the video/podcast description. You will get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million satoshis. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Hit 14,000 live viewers on Rumble. I think that's a record. Strong coming in on YouTube, 620. I think we peaked that. And of course, X always coming in strong with 2,000 live viewers. If you guys enjoyed today's show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. And we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.
Okay.
I do not think you understand how early you are to Bitcoin. I think the number one problem you have is that you are not bullish enough on Bitcoin. If you were more bullish on Bitcoin, you would take your security more seriously, you would upgrade your Bitcoin stack, and you'd be buying more Bitcoin if you were properly bullish enough, right? We're in a bubble. And it's nice to be in the bubble. The bubble is nice, it is warm, it is orange, it is comfortable. But get outside the bubble and actually take an objective look of how early you are to Bitcoin. And it will be exciting, slightly terrifying, but mostly exciting. I don't think you understand how early you are to Bitcoin. There are 54,000 public companies in the world. There are 400 million companies in the world. Okay, a very small number of the 400 million companies in the world are public. 54,000 of them. Give or take a few hundred or a few thousand, depending on what source you go by, right? But the point is, there are 1 out of 337 public companies in the world that have been buying Bitcoin, and the majority of them are dabbling. At the time of recording, the number of Bitcoin you need to be in the top 100 of the Bitcoin companies in the world is like 25 Bitcoin. Now, 25 Bitcoin's a lot of money, I know, and I know that most people would happily take 25 Bitcoin for free, right? But to be in the top 100 of the 400 million companies in the world, or more accurately said, to be in the top 100 of the 54,000 public companies in the world with only, a few dozen Bitcoin, that's how early you are to Bitcoin. That 1 out of 337 of the public companies are buying Bitcoin at all. And most of the companies buying Bitcoin at all that are publicly traded are buying a handful of them. A very, very, very teeny weeny percentage of their balance sheet, right? In my opinion, if by 2030 there are 1,000 or so companies buying Bitcoin in size with conviction for the long term, I would call that a major win, right? This is going to last a very long time. You are not too late to Bitcoin. Sure, Bitcoin could rocket up to $1 million tomorrow. It could go to $10 million next year. That is possible. Why? Because political currency is a Ponzi scheme funded by a state-sponsored monopoly of violence, and it will eventually hyperinflate. However, barring that, in World War III, we're probably not going to get $10 million Bitcoin next year, which is great because that means you can buy it for cheap before it hits $10 million a coin. It took like almost 5 years for Michael Saylor with his company MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy, to have one other company buying Bitcoin in size, right? Metaplanet and Similar Scientific obviously followed suit, right? Obviously, there are other companies like Tesla, like Coinbase, right? Other companies that are buying, right? But the number of companies buying in size globally is tiny, super duper small, right? That is how early you are to Bitcoin. 5 years from now, we could maybe be looking at 1 out of 50, 1 out of 40 public companies having a non-zero Bitcoin exposure. And I think that would be a major win. That would be basically a 10x from where we are today. We've gone from 1 public company, or really let's say 3 or 4 if you're including Coinbase and all the others that aren't as serious, right? We've gone from like 5 to like 150 over the last 5 years. That's a great milestone, right? That's like a 30x. If we could 10x from here over the next 5 years, that's some diminishing returns, and I think that is a great goal. 1,000 companies by 2030 buying Bitcoin in size, that's awesome. But even then, you're not too late to Bitcoin because there's another 53,000 public companies of the 400 million companies in the world that are yet to start buying Bitcoin. That's how early you are to Bitcoin. This is going to last a very long while. Now, if you're somebody that wants to acquire a Bitcoin play or Bitcoin proxy or Bitcoin, increase strategy, like if you're somebody that wants to have a discussion about increasing your Bitcoin exposure, I'm more than happy to help. There are all kinds of ways to increase your Bitcoin exposure. One of the ways that I'm using and that a lot of my clients are using right now is a Bitcoin denominated loan, right? There are all kinds of loan products out there. Bitcoin mortgages, Bitcoin HELOCs, Bitcoin treasury loans, which is what I'm talking about here, right? Margin call loans, fiat loans, all kinds of loans out there, different products. And guess what? In the same way that the majority of the companies yet to adopt Bitcoin are in front of us, not behind us, right? We have less in common with the near future in the past. The majority of Michael Saylors are in front of us, not behind us. The majorities of Semler Scientifics and Metaplanets are in front of us, not behind us. The majority of that opportunity is in front of us, not behind us. In the same way, the majority of Bitcoin loan opportunities are in front of you, not behind you. It's taken years to get to half a dozen or so different loan opportunities you can pursue, right? 5 years from now, there will be 100. 10 years from now, there will be thousands. And your new biggest problem is going to transition from, I don't have enough products serving my needs, to now I have an overabundance of products trying to serve my needs, all competing, and they're all giving me conflicting information. How do I choose which one to use? This is why I'm a huge fan of the work that I do as a tech agnostic Bitcoin advisor and supporter for my clients, right? I don't care what product they use. I don't care what company they use. My goal is to help them figure out what is the best product for them. I'm more so of a driving instructor than a car salesman. There's nothing wrong with a car salesman, but instead of telling people you should use this brand of car, this brand, I'd rather just help people understand the trade-offs of all of the brands. So if you're somebody that thinks that a Bitcoin treasury loan is a brand that could be of use to you, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. What are the basics of that kind of product? It is a 5% interest loan, 95% lend, 1 year term, however, that can be extended up to 5 years depending on your circumstance, and it's very likely that can happen. These products are available globally, not only for American citizens. That's really important, especially for my friends watching internationally. Zero origination fee, zero monthly payment, zero credit score check, zero counterparty risk, zero reapplication risk, and zero recourse loan, and full custody. If you want to apply and have a conversation about how you can apply and help figure out if this kind of product is best for you, feel free to reach out. The information is in the description or on the screen or wherever, right? Just consider doing that. Why should you consider doing that? It's because you are not too late. There is plenty of upside ahead. Your number one cost is not an interest rate. Your number one cost is not paying a fee. Your number one cost is not anything you're tangibly paying. Your number one cost in Bitcoin, no matter if you have a 1/10 of a Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin, your number one cost right now is opportunity cost. Your number one cost is not taxes. Your number one cost is not the risk of the Bitcoin network going down, right? Your number one cost always is opportunity cost. People are so scared of tax questions. People are so scared of using products. People are so scared of paying fees because they have a zero-sum mindset. My friend, your biggest worry should not be the taxes. Your biggest worry should not be the fees. Because if you don't optimize and maximize the opportunity cost, you're not going to have any profits to pay fees or taxes from, right? Opportunity cost is your number one cost. And so maximize the opportunity cost. I am not telling you to buy a Bitcoin company. I'm not doing that, right? The thing here to understand is that all these companies are competing for Bitcoin. And even if you never want to buy a Bitcoin company or Bitcoin treasury company or invest in the future with Bitcoin, that's totally fine, right? There'll be lots of opportunities, right? Right now with Bitcoin store of value companies eventually turning into Bitcoin medium of exchange companies, right? There'll be lots of those opportunities, but you don't have to do that. Because guess what? There are going to be 400 million companies in the future competing for your Bitcoin. There will be hundreds of millions of companies, not people, companies, collections of people willing to buy your Bitcoin because your Bitcoin is fungible with everybody else's. And all the Michael Saylors of the world are going to be printing all kinds of shares and all kinds of dilution. All the political jurisdictions of the world will be printing all kinds of political currency trying to get your Bitcoin. You are not too late. You are so early. In fact, I don't think you understand how early you are to Bitcoin. 5 years from now, there will not be hyper-Bitcoinization. 5 years from now, I think we'll be lucky to have a few percent of the tiny segment of public companies, right? The majority of companies are private, not public. And the majority of public companies 5 years from now, they won't be buying Bitcoin. And the majority of the ones that are buying Bitcoin, they will not be buying Bitcoin in size. So congratulations, you're early. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing with others. And ultimately, if you take nothing away from this video, you should be even more bullish in your current perception. The cost, the trade-off, is that you're probably going to have to wait longer than what you'd expect. You might have to wait years to get the kinds of results you're hoping for. But guess what? By the time you get there, you're probably going to be looking at way higher price points for Bitcoin than any of us expect. I think Bitcoin's going way above $100 million a coin, but it's probably going to take extra decades than what we all like to admit. So thank you for your time. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to reach out if you have any interest in a Bitcoin treasury loan. If you want to have a conversation, even without this product specifically, just in general, about how to increase your Bitcoin stack and optimize for the opportunity cost, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. Thank you.
Alright, that's the end of the run. Thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all. Enjoy your stuff. Have a great diet. Have a great day. A great life. And eat good food. Definitely eat good food. Yeah. Yep. And I mean like really good. I'm talking like extra virgin olive oil. We're talking. We'll get a blessing. I'll take that. I'm talking. Olives and walnuts and peas and all that good stuff. What else we got here? I don't know, we'll figure it out later. Alright. I'm gonna go take a nap. Oops, I went in accidentally. Peace.